Because of a senseless disaster, I killed my grandfather who raised me. He was one of the 9 book holders, the inheritor of the copper coin curse book. The Yenshing technique is an ancient form of dark magic, simply put, a method of cursing. But if the caster places a curse, the one who breaks it must return the curse. Otherwise, I'll be consumed by it and die. One curse leads to another, endlessly. This is curse fighting. Because I witnessed bullying at school and didn't step in, Wan Honghong held a grudge against me. But her older sister is a curse master. Under the cover of night, she placed a red basin in the tree below the teaching building. Wan Honghong didn't come to class the next day. But yesterday, those who were bullying her, including me, were all distracted by a cuckoo on the window. Because in our eyes, the bird's face was Wan Honghong's. As the cuckoo outside the window wailed, we all seemed to be possessed, and the skin on our faces slowly transformed into bird feathers. Suddenly, a bird-like sound erupted from our mouths, until our throats were raw and we could no longer make a sound. Then, one by one, we collapsed, convulsing on the ground. When Grandpa arrived at the hospital, he immediately noticed the black line on my little finger. It was the mark of a curse. Grandpa folded 2 pieces of paper, and wrote our birth dates and times on them. He touched them with his finger. The 2 paper figures' hands folded together on their own. Through this method, my grandpa sensed the source of the curse was at our school. Sure enough, he found a red basin in the tree. Grandpa knocked it down. Inside the red basin was a paper snake coiled around a bird's egg. Seeing this, the cuckoo could only let out a mournful cry. A photo of the victim was attached to the snake's head. All of this resulted in a wailing, blood-curdling curse. My grandfather, with his vast experience, realized that burning the paper snake would break the curse. Just as he was about to do so, a warning came from outside the wall. Those guys have bullied my sister many times. This time, they must face the consequences. Anyone who dares to break my curse will face a fight to the death. As soon as these words were spoken, Grandpa knew he was dealing with an expert, so he stopped talking, and burned the suppressing charm. At the same time, outside the courtyard wall, Wan Honghong's older sister was also hit by the curse's backlash. Wan Honghong patted the flames on her sister's body, while begging Grandpa to spare them both. But her older sister stopped her. One curse after another. If you don't want to die, just cast another curse. It turns out the most powerful part of the cuckoo's hoof blood curse isn't the adult bird's cry, but the chick's cry when it senses danger to its parent, and forces itself out of the shell. Now, Grandpa's been hit. He also starts crying out to the sky. The sisters, thinking it was over, were about to head back, when a copper coin was tossed over the courtyard wall. Before they could react, the coin had immobilized them. It was their grandfather's fire dragon coin curse. It was because of this curse that his identity as one of the 9 book holders was revealed. My family was ruined. A boy nearly lost his life for taking 9 yuan and 40 cents. On his way home from school one day, Li Changsheng was knocked down by a mysterious man. He then saw the man's money on the ground. He was happy to have picked up the cash, unaware that he had fallen into a trap. He'd already been afflicted by someone's curse. After happily buying a few bags of instant noodles, an old woman in red clothes set her sights on him. After passing a few intersections, he also noticed a figure constantly following him. The boy thought it was a debt collector chasing him down, so he wanted to hurry home and find his grandpa to resolve it. But as he turned a corner in an alleyway, I accidentally kicked over the paper money on the ground. Today is the Ghost Festival, the day every family sends paper money to their deceased relatives. Li Changsheng walked for a while, and discovered a 100 yuan bill unexpectedly floating down from the sky. He grinned from ear to ear. How many crispy noodles could this buy? But when he looked up, he was completely stunned. Countless 100 yuan bills are floating in the air, but some of the money is burnt and torn. Obviously unusable. Li Changsheng couldn't care less. He just picked up the intact ones and stuffed them into his bag, until he found a large denomination bill, one only my great-grandfather had ever seen. The young man was still immersed in the thrill of collecting money, but behind him, a figure holding scissors was already approaching. Just then, Li Changsheng saw a glittering golden light in the alley beside him. He curiously looked inside. Gold ingots, piled up like a mountain, filled the alley. Several people were scooping them up into their arms. Li Changsheng, holding his cue braid, started stuffing gold ingots into his school bag. Someone nearby reminded him to take it slowly. He could only pick up as much money as he was destined to have. Not a single one more. Not a single one will be missing. Li Changsheng was completely engrossed in picking them up. The red figure behind him finally saw his chance. He grabbed Li Changsheng's cue and cut it off. As Li Changsheng fell to the ground, the joss paper and paper ingots from his bag scattered everywhere. Couldn't use them all in life. Can't take them with him in death. A fire started somewhere unknown. The paper money on the ground began to burn. When Li Changsheng opened his eyes again, half a year had passed. He had suffered severe burns and was sent to the hospital by his grandfather. His grandfather then left a box and disappeared. Inside was a strange-looking ancient book. At the very bottom were a letter from his grandfather in his grandfather's personal pouch. It was this letter that opened the door to the world of Yanchangshu for him. A strange and bizarre world slowly unfolds. A single piece of blue brick covered with white cloth can cause a once thriving family to become extinct. This is the infamous, dismal magic, the mourning brick. The 2 pieces of wood come from the diagonal beams of the main door. The 4 blue bricks are corner bricks from the courtyard's walls, and the paper figures wedged in the brick gaps represent the women of the household, who will bow once a year. Every year, a male member of the family dies. The Han family was once a wealthy household in the area, but they must have offended someone. They were cursed with such a vicious hex. Li Changxing's grandfather made a living by repairing walls and sealing leaks. It was during this work that he found this brick with mourning markings in the collapsed wall. He told the women of the Han family about the origin of this hex. The Han family couldn't accept that this brick was the cause of their ruin. In a fit of anger, I threw it into the brazier. The destruction of the curse object means the curse is broken. The caster will also suffer the backlash of the curse. Although it wasn't my grandfather who did it directly, the Li family was held responsible. The original caster luckily survived, and has been seeking revenge on the Li family for decades. Li Changxing was afflicted by the curse before, which is why he was working for that blood money. Just now, I was blinded by the evil spirit, and walked into the fire myself. His grandfather consumed his own life force to cast the fire-swallowing toad and save Li Changxing. But I didn't expect that there was still a restraining curse, a footprint seal, on him. But heaven never seals off all exits. As long as one enters the art of cursing, they can break one curse on their body. And the Li family's inheritance is the copper coin curse, one of the 9 sacred books of cursing. Li Changxing immediately decided to enter the Tiansheng sect. But just as he was about to sign the agreement with the divine book, he searched through the entire book but couldn't find a single empty page. As he was feeling frustrated, 2 nurses with strange expressions pushed the door open. One of them picked up his clothes and muttered something under her breath. She sniffed it. The burial clothes were in hand. The other person also took out his bowl and chopsticks. He smelled them. The unfamiliar bowl steadied his soul. Then the 2 of them went to Li Changxing's bedside. One of them held the clothes with both hands. Clothes at the ready. Food at the ready. The man dies, but his clothes remain, not staying in the world of the living. The other person also raised their bowl and chopsticks above their head. Clothes come with a stretch of the hand. Food comes with an open mouth. 8 death bowls old, not staying in the world of the living. This is another curse on Li Changxing. Taking the footprints, 2 nurses were possessed. After a series of suffocating actions, white paper had been stuck to the soles of Li Changxing's feet. He was completely immobilized, as if pinned down by a ghost. Suddenly, the bandages on his body split open, and he bolted upright. It was the swallowing fire resuscitation spell his grandfather had cast that restored Li Changxing's ability to move. The 2 wraiths didn't expect him to still be able to move, and tried to bite off his feet. At this critical moment, Li Changxing looked at the curse-dispelling grimoire in front of him and had a sudden inspiration. He bit his finger and pressed it onto the spine of the book. With the contract successfully formed, the 2 evil spirits were sucked into the grimoire. The curse on Li Changxing was finally broken. Old folks used to say, if a house cat dies, it's best to hang its body from a tree branch. It's not because they're cruel, but because cats have 9 lives. If buried in the ground, they'll transform into cat demons and haunt the living. Similarly, if a dog dies with resentment, burying it in the ground will cause its vengeful spirit to leave its body. It will only rely on instinct to return home, and bring misfortune to their former owners. So it's best to throw the bodies into flowing water, so they'll drift far away with the current, and can never find their way home. That's what the saying goes. Hang a dead cat in a tree, cast a dead dog into the flowing stream. Li Changxing witnessed yet another cruel act of malevolent magic today, the burying of cats and dogs. He followed the instructions and went to seek refuge with his grandfather's junior, Anhuiren, elder, and ran a real estate agency. When Li Changxing arrived, he happened to encounter a young couple coming to return their keys. It turned out that every night, stray cats would pace back and forth on the windowsill of the house they were renting. Even if they chased them away, the cats would jump onto the courtyard wall and continue to look into the house. The young couple couldn't stand the disturbance, so the next day they borrowed a large white dog from a friend's house to guard their home. But at night, that strange feeling returned. Baymax wasn't making any noise in the yard. The man was about to open the curtains to check, when a dark figure burst through the window. It turned out to be Baymax, squatting motionless in the corner. He didn't respond to any calls. The man tried to approach him. Baymax suddenly turned around. Covered in blood, Baymax startled the young couple. After listening to their description, Olden asked Li Changxing to go with him to investigate the scene. Olden was clearly no ordinary person either. As soon as he opened the door, he noticed a startled bird hovering over the courtyard. The soil in the courtyard was also sticky like toffee. A sour smell drifted through the house. Olden explained that this was the smell of decay. This courtyard is full of strange occurrences. Just then, Olden's granddaughter arrived, and told her grandfather that the young couple had black lines under their fingernails. Apparently, someone had cursed them. Olden recalled the strange behavior of the cats and dogs, and instructed me to break open the bedroom partition. Sure enough, inside the wall partition, we found the carcasses of two animals, a cat and a dog. Back at the agency, Olden called the landlord. After some coercion and enticement, the man confessed. One of his mahjong buddies taught him this trick. It was a way to scam the agency out of the penalty fee. After the man left, he explained to us that this curse is called burying the cat and dog. This ritual requires strangling a cat and a dog to death with hand-red hemp rope, then soaking them in a preservative solution for 49 days. Finally, bury them in the walls on either side of the bedroom. The resentment contained within the cats and dogs will then enter the human body through the eyes, causing lethargy and loss of appetite. Over time, it can even take a person's life. This resentment will also attract stray cats and dogs from the surrounding area, working together to drive the resentment into the body. No tenant can withstand this kind of harassment. But what Olden found strange was, this is the first time I've seen a curse like this using a dead snake instead of hemp rope. Those with wells at home should be careful. You might be able to fish out a golden toad when you return home this year. Just take a red string, tie 3 copper coins to the end, find an old well and dangle the red string, swing it 3 times to the left, 3 times to the right, and you can get a 3-legged golden toad. This deity is very spiritual. As long as you do a good deed every day, like giving a shui alike, the golden toad will spit out money to reward you. Therefore, since ancient times, the golden toad has symbolized wealth and good fortune. Today is the day Li Changsheng becomes a disciple of the Golden Gate sect, and receives the title of money-snatching boy. The so-called title begging refers to creatures asking heaven for a title. For example, a yellow weasel might ask you if it looks like a human or a god. When humans seek a title, they usually ask, "What will you take me as?" So seeking a title is also called entering the Tao. It's like formally becoming a disciple. Li Changsheng needed to seek a title to hide his name, in order to avoid his enemies. This way, he could avoid being cursed. Fortunately, his grandfather had planned an escape route for him. The relic he left behind can sense heaven and earth, thus allowing him to seek a title. During the Taoist rite of passage, all sorts of immortals, demons, and spirits will pass by. The 3 candles represent 3 chances to enter the Tao. Olden told him not to enter an evil path. He only needs to extinguish 1 candle to refuse. If all 3 are extinguished, it means the rite of passage has failed. The rooster beside him can ward off lesser demons. If the rite of passage is successful, he will no longer fear being cursed. Li Changsheng held an incense burner over his head and assumed a specific pose. No outsiders can be present during the ritual. He was the only one left in the courtyard. Soon, a large one came, attracted by the smell of incense. Li Changsheng couldn't move. At this moment, it was all up to Brother Chicken. Fortunately, he had bloodline suppression. He quickly chased the snail away. However, Brother Chicken was clearly not very bright. He quickly chased after them. Li Changsheng could only pray silently in his heart, hoping no more demons would come to disturb him. At this moment, a gong sounded outside the courtyard wall. A junk collector was loudly calling out to gather things. When he rode up to the courtyard gate, he purposely stopped. He claimed to be a traveling junk collector. He was passing by and wanted to collect some items today. Li Changsheng also sensed a hidden meaning in the man's words. But seeing that the man's feet were different from a normal person's, he didn't dare respond. Fearing it was some evil spirit, he quickly blew out a candle. Sure enough, the rickshaw outside the courtyard wall slowly departed. No sooner had he sent off one being of unknown origin, than the swing beside him began to move without a breeze. A ghostly figure slowly materialized on it, and began frantically absorbing Li Changsheng's incense. This time, I know without a doubt that this is an evil spirit. Li Changsheng didn't dare to ask for its title. He wanted to blow out the candle. Unfortunately, he was already controlled by the ghost. He couldn't reach it even with all his might. Just as the evil spirit was about to devour the offering, a toad swallowed the copper coin before it. Then he fainted. Words gradually appear on the paper figure beside him. Li Changsheng, the money-snatching boy. At this moment, in his dream, he has been summoned to the Golden Toad Temple. The Toad Master on the seat explains. Sensing the fire-swallowing toad on his back, I came to guide him onto the path. Once you enter the Golden Toad sect, you must remember the sect's principles. Swallow others' wealth to dispel their disasters. Spit out wealth to aid the world. After listening to the master explain many more rules, he finally instructed Li Changsheng to leave. The boy just casually slapped the arcade machine, and multiplied his game coins by 10. If I had this many coins when I was a kid, I would have ruled the village. Just now, he went all in with his last 5 coins, still hesitating on which symbol to bet on. His lucky gold jumped onto the game machine button, with the game box constantly jumping. He won 2 big prizes. Even Chen Daozi would bow twice for this kind of move. But before he could celebrate for long, a man with a non-mainstream hairstyle took him into a nearby alley. A group of people robbed Li Chongqing clean. He even said he'd come back tomorrow. Those with similar experiences, leave a comment so Ashui can find some comfort. Then, his desk mate delivered some bad news. Tomorrow is tuition payment day. If those punks catch him, it'll be a disaster. Luckily, Li Chongqing is quick-witted. He found the class tough guy and tried to get in with him. The boys weren't that calculating. Anyone I can hang with is a buddy. But before Li Chongqing could get to the point, the older guy, Lu Tong, got a call, and hurried off. Conventional methods weren't working, so he decided to enter a dream and go to the Golden Toad Temple to ask Master Toad for help. He explained the situation to Master Toad, who bestowed upon him a pair of mother and son insects. This is the medium for performing the Qingfu spell. These insects are tiny and translucent. I just need to smear the eggs of the offspring insects on the coins, and they'll hatch automatically. Then I just need to activate the mother insect, and the offspring will return with the money. After Master Toad taught me this technique, he repeatedly warned me not to use it for illegal activities. Otherwise, karma will catch up, and retribution will be swift. After waking up, the symbiotic golden toad spat out a small insect. Li Chongqing attached the insect egg to his tuition money. The next day, he was cornered by some punks again. He hurriedly handed over his tuition money, thus avoiding a beating. He then hid in a secluded place. He took out the mother insect and performed the Qingfu technique. As the mother insect was activated, waves of peculiar energy emanated from the mother worm. As the child worm returned, Li Chongqing was startled. It had actually brought back the thug's entire wallet. After looking through the wallet, he discovered not only his tuition money, but also a wad of cash with other students' names written on it. With good intentions, Li Chongqing tracked down the owners based on the names and returned their money. But unexpectedly, this punk didn't play by the rules, and went straight to Brother Ing. Brother Ing came back with a gang of thugs and insisted that Li Chongqing stole the wallet. Lu Tong rushed in to defend him, but the thugs clearly weren't going to give him any face. Just as they were about to start a fight, a large van pulled up in front of them. Lu Tong's older brother was one of the infamous 13 protectors. Seeing someone dare to bully his younger brother, the situation suddenly reversed. Inggu and his small gang of thugs were about to get beaten. But this small county town is so small that the big bosses all know each other. Someone stepped in and saved the thugs. Then they took Lu Tong's older brother and left. Li Chongqing ultimately couldn't avoid the beating. But the young man skilled in cursing techniques held to his principles. Facing this malicious society, he ultimately didn't use those harmful methods for revenge. You've probably seen some homes with a mirror hanging above their doors, but you definitely don't know why. This object is called a bagua mirror. It's meant to reflect any evil energy entering the house, protecting the family's safety. But if you live in a neighborhood like this, right across from another building, you definitely shouldn't hang something like this. It will reflect negative energy into other people's homes. The old lady's incident happened because the neighbor hung a harmful mirror. As she was going upstairs, the sunlight hit it just right. It took half of her life away. Her daughter was furious. She confronted the neighbors, demanding they take down the mirror. The old lady across the street is stubborn. She insists on not taking down the mirror. So the daughter of this family hung a gourd above their door, meaning to absorb her negative energy and then reflect it back to her. The old lady on this side wasn't about to be outdone. A few days later, she hung up a pair of scissors, meaning to puncture the gourd. I continued to mediate the conflict, but this family also understands feng shui, and they hung up a hammer. The meaning is self-evident. They want to suppress your scissors. With the constant bickering, the conflict between the two families grew. The old man living in the west apartment was already in poor health, and this recent quarrel made him furious. He ended up directly in the ICU. His grandmother held a grudge. She secretly devised a sinister plot. One day, the little girl from the Dong family was walking home from school as usual, but just as she opened her door, she heard the door behind her slowly creaking open. She instinctively turned around. She saw a small figure, riddled with needles, slowly walking towards her. The little girl had never seen anything like this. The key broke off in the lock, and she still couldn't open the door. She wailed and pounded on the door. Unbeknownst to her, the nail holding a hammer above the door loosened from the impact. The falling hammer struck the little girl on the head. Her parents rushed over and took her to the hospital to get her head bandaged, although her injuries weren't serious. After leaving the hospital, the little girl became withdrawn and quiet, a stark contrast to her previously lively and cheerful personality. I happened to pass by one day. The child's mother overheard some gossip, saying the old woman across the street had hired someone to curse her child. Upon hearing this, the woman also found a man, and offered him a generous reward to deal with the old woman. The man was a sorcerer. Unable to resist the lure of money, he cast a yin-yang corpse poison curse. He dripped preserved lamp oil onto a phoenix tree leaf. Then I secretly slipped it into the crack of the old woman's door. This thing, once it touches someone, can infect a living person with corpse poison. The old woman inevitably fell victim. At first, she didn't feel anything. She was even getting ready to go to the market to buy groceries. But as soon as she got there, large purple spots started appearing on her forehead. By the time she went to the hospital that evening to bring her husband dinner, half of his face is rotten. But there is also a powerful person behind the old lady. She cast a curse on him. As a result, this man suffered the backlash of the curse. The backlash nearly consumed him with flames. Now he can only hide in a refrigerator to survive. He is a feng shui master from Enleo company. Now he can only rely on Enleo to save his life. After hearing what happened, they came to the scene to find the suppressing object of the curse. The hallway was covered with vines. Olden recognized them as a variety that only grows in tombs. Clearly, someone had planted them intentionally. After searching around, Olden's gaze fixed on the carpet in the doorway. This was the suppressing object of the curse. He intended to remove it and then decide what to do next. Unexpectedly, after lifting a corner, I found an explosive talisman hidden there. As the talisman was triggered, a loud explosion was heard. The mortal was enveloped in thick smoke. This smoke had been laced with something. Li Changsheng had golden body protection, so he quickly regained consciousness. But Olden and his granddaughter weren't so lucky. Both of them were now afflicted by an unknown curse. Li Changsheng had never fought against a curse before. He was starting to panic. On New Year's Eve, an old man and his granddaughter kept kowtowing at their neighbor's house. It wasn't for red envelopes. It was because they had inhaled the soil from the tomb. The soil in the Tomb Raider's tomb, constantly eroded by yin energy, can cause people to lose their minds and fall into hallucinations. Li Changsheng and the others were ambushed, and fell victim to this curse. What's worse, tomb sealing earth is often accompanied by tomb guardian vines. Olden and his granddaughter were dragged into the house. Although Li Changsheng narrowly escaped, he had never dealt with curses before. Even the divine book left to him by his grandfather was hidden away, because using it would expose his aura and attract enemies. Fortunately, Brother Frog jumped out and told him not to worry. The Golden Toad sect cultivates the nailed garment on their bodies. It can devour all things. With him around, he can mask the aura of the divine book. Free from worry, Li Changsheng immediately fetched the divine book and his grandfather's relics. After opening the divine book, a figure drifted out. Anyone who signs this book is considered to have joined the Yenching sect and taken the book spirit as their master. Li Changsheng explained everything to his master, starting from the very beginning with the mirror. This round is already the fourth round of the grudge battle. His master told him that the resentment accumulated in the first 4 rounds was already very deep. This best of 5 is the final, decisive round. Fortunately, they took the opponent's curse-suppressing artifact. They only need to use this artifact to cast a counter-curse and they can defeat the opponent. With his master's help, Li Changsheng, I'm starting to learn my first curse technique, the soul-chasing curse. As the saying goes, for every curse, there's a blessing. Karma is infinite. This round will decide both victory and death. His grandfather's words echoed in his ears. Sometimes, killing one person is to save many more. Now, he no longer hesitated. He pulled out his little raccoon water margin cards, treasured for years. The stronger the psychic energy imbued in the spellcasting materials, the more powerful the curse. It goes without saying how much psychic energy is concentrated in these little raccoon water margin cards. At a barbecue stall far, far away, a man is drinking heartily, because he just acquired a house. An old woman asked him for help, and the reward was her house. The man bragged to his companion about how easy it was for him to make money, as he used his chopsticks to flip off a bottle cap. Unfortunately, the cap landed in the wine glass of a large man at the next table. The large man immediately started cursing, venting his anger. Long hair was there with his date, and saving face was paramount. Hearing the provocation from the other table, he stood up, ready to teach them a lesson. Coming up behind Fatty, I slapped him on the head, knocking off his wig. Unaware of the impending doom, Shaggy was still complaining to his companion about Fatty's bald head, when Fatty suddenly grabbed his arm, and slammed him onto the table. While Shaggy was still stunned, a cleaver chopped down on his wrist. Not only that, Fatty stood up and stabbed the man in the heart again. Long Hair couldn't understand, even in death, why he lost his life over such a small matter, until he saw the black line on his index finger. He realized he'd been cursed. At that moment, the restaurant's TV was broadcasting a breaking news report. 2 murderers are at large in the city. Stocky build, bald head, and carrying a controlled knife. So even gold has different grades. The most common is called nail-studded gold. Through cultivation, one can transform the studs into gems. At this point, it's called gem-encrusted gold. The next level is the kind of ornament you often see in your homes. It's the well-known 3-legged money toad. The highest level is called the Meat G golden toad. Since the severing of heaven and earth, it has become extremely rare. Li Changsheng's natal golden toad is only at the first level, but it can still find treasures containing spiritual energy for him. Unfortunately, just as he agreed on a price with the antique shop owner, the white-haired woman behind him snatched it away with a higher offer. He still wanted to confront her. Brother Frog stopped him. It turned out this guy had a jeweled golden toad clinging to him. Li Changsheng was kind-hearted, and since the guy was a fellow disciple from the Golden Toad Temple, he could do nothing about it. He didn't know that this kindness would bring him good fortune. Lunchtime, Li Changsheng and Brother Frog ate separately. While Brother Frog happily munched on small bugs, a shadow slowly crept up behind it. A pack of vicious dogs surrounded it. While the frog was still bewildered, one of them suddenly bit it. Meanwhile, Li Changsheng, who was eating, felt a sharp pain in his chest. Their minds were connected. He guessed that the frog was in danger. Fortunately, the dogs had just eaten. There's an earth god shrine under a large tree in the center of the village. Although the village is in ruins, the shrine still has burning incense offerings. Brother Frog is thrown into the shrine, and finds an old dog with green eyebrows, wearing a red robe, sleeping inside. It turns out this old dog is a wanted criminal by the Golden Toad Temple. It stole the village's auspicious treasure, the Phoenix Rider Immortal, causing the displacement of the people here. Master Toad has specifically ordered the capture of this beast. The old dog has also become an enemy of the Golden Toad Temple. He was just about to attack Froggy, when a rock hit him square on the head. Froggy also took the opportunity to escape. The newcomer was the Golden Toad disciple I met earlier. She had just accepted Master Toad's mission, to capture the old dog. The old dog howled at the sky. Suddenly, wild dogs emerged from all directions and surrounded the white-haired woman. The magic of the cultivator's duel was quite extraordinary. The woman calmly took out a tiger head hat. Instantly, she seemed possessed by the king of beasts. She frightened off the pack of vicious dogs. Then she pulled out a specially made iron chain, and prepared to restrain the old dog. Unexpectedly, the old dog secretly took out the stolen talisman, and peed on it, magnetizing it to him. Animals can't compete with humans directly, but they can activate the talisman to influence others. Urged by the old dog, a menacing man emerged from a nearby house. Seeing the woman with the dog leash, the man assumed she was a dog thief. Li Changsheng finally arrived, shouting at the man to stop him. While running towards the Earth God shrine, that kick almost sent the dog to the underworld early, and also destroyed the shrine. Li Changsheng picked up the fallen sacred object. Brother Frog reminded him that deity statues shouldn't be destroyed, just cleaned of the dog urine. But before he could move, he was slammed against a tree by the man behind him. With the man's violent actions, Li Changsheng's head was also cut open, and blood flowed down his forehead. Seeing that he was no longer moving, the man behind him turned to deal with the woman. The old dog on the side also seized the opportunity, and tried to snatch the town's sacred object. Li Changsheng, pretending to be unconscious, snatched it back. At this moment, a brilliant idea struck him. Unable to find water to cleanse it, he used his own blood. As the blood continuously soaked the statue, the filth slowly came off. A wave of energy emanated from the statue. In the distance, the stubborn holdout's house suddenly collapsed. That house had become his lifeline. It suddenly collapsed for no apparent reason. The man couldn't bear the shock and fainted. The green-browed old dog wasn't doing much better. The town's protective charm was broken, and it suffered the backlash of the suppressing spell, barely clinging to life. This woman in white is alright. To repay the life-saving grace, she took out a chain and handed it to Li Changsheng, telling him that as long as he captured the old dog's soul, he could go to Master Chan for a reward, and returned the 12 zodiac bagua coin he had snatched from the heavens. Just as Li Changsheng was about to deal with the green-browed old dog, the old dog unexpectedly started wailing. He said he had one regret before his death. He regretted that he couldn't speak human language back then. He couldn't explain to his master in person. The old dog slowly recounted. Back then, I was also a loyal little mutt. One day, I was playing with my little owner, and the adults weren't home. A stray dog outside attacked my little owner. I rushed out without hesitation and fought the stray dog, successfully saving him. But when the man of the house came home and saw the child covered in wounds, he thought I had gone mad and attacked him. All I remember is that day, it hurt a lot, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the agony in my heart. When I woke up again, I was chained up in the cold. The master of the house was furiously making a phone call. I wasn't afraid of his words, like mad dog or meat. I just hated that I couldn't explain everything. But fate wasn't ready for me to die. A sudden gust of evil wind blew, knocking down the statue of the Phoenix riding immortal in the corner of the room. It hit squarely, and broke my chains. I snatched up the statue that saved my life, and left my home without looking back. I just didn't expect that the auspicious amulet would slowly breed baleful energy. Under its influence, some of my actions were also affected, but in the end, good and evil will have their due. The weapon itself contains evil energy. The lion biting the sword symbolizes transforming evil to protect the prosperity of the family. This item is often used on the walls of deity shrines. Li Changsheng cleared the ruins of the Earth Temple. He indeed found the lion biting the sword. Under Frog Brother's guidance, he used the mental power from the coin to activate this magical item. He imprinted the lion biting the sword onto the belly of the green-eyed old dog. The evil energy within Greenbrow rapidly dissipated as if it had encountered its natural enemy. Along with the shattering of the magical tool, Greenbrow was completely purified. It then shed its monstrous form, and transformed back into that simple, kind little brown dog. Li Changxing then kept it near Old N's home, feeding it regularly every day, until one day, a carload of uninvited guests arrived. The peaceful days have just been shattered. This man is the heartless landlord who cursed his tenants. The buried cat and dog talismans are controlled by the old man, making him restless. Once the cursed talisman is destroyed, the caster will be burned to death by the curse. Tonight, he sought out an expert to steal the talisman. If Li Changxing were here, he would be greatly shocked, because the person in the back seat is the curse master who exterminated his entire family. Several people observed through telescopes. Goldfish tiles were inlaid on the corners of the family's house. An 8-treasured exquisite lantern hung at the main gate. The middle-aged man explained that if they wanted to curse this family, they first needed to break the 2 feng shui barriers at the entrance. The unscrupulous landlord also took out the materials he had secretly collected. These were all personal belongings related to Old Manon. The man first sprinkled soil from the base of the family's wall into a bowl of black dog blood. After a long casting windup, Jia's head swap aversion is finally complete. As expected, the slower the casting windup, the greater the power of the spell. It's just finished over there, and Olden, who was reading here, has already been hit. Now, all the words in his eyes have transformed into questions asking him whether he wants a head swap. Suddenly, he feels something pressing against his back. Turn around. A filthy creature personally came to his door and asked him to trade heads. Panicked, Olden tried to retrieve the Fushan seal from his drawer, a treasure he kept to ward off evil spirits. But in the next second, the evil being emerged directly from the cabinet. Olden had no choice but to rush out of the house to seek help. But no matter how he shouted, no one came out. He paused only for a moment, and the monster had already enveloped half of his body. The ground is covered in paper scraps. Lighting a fire here is practically asking for death. The two underlings turned their heads expressionlessly after hearing their boss's rebuke. Scratches had appeared on their tattoos at some point. They then threw their lighters at the paper figures on the ground. Flames erupted instantly. The two underlings charged at their boss like madmen. Luckily, the man had a trick up his sleeve. He muttered an incantation. The tattoo on his chest slowly glowed. He grabbed the thug in each hand, forcing their faces towards his chest. Under the light of the tattoo, both men instantly fainted. Seeing the fire growing, the man wanted to escape the courtyard. But then he heard a strange noise coming from his palm. He looked down at his hand. Two faces appeared on his palms, laughing sinisterly. Under the influence of the monstrous faces, his fingernails grew long and black. As the man looked on in despair, his hands clawed wildly at his chest, out of his control. He struggled for a while but couldn't hold on, collapsing into the flames. Meanwhile, the talisman paper will ignite first. The moment the talisman paper ignites, a fierce wind will howl through the courtyard. A long spear will pierce the two female ghosts like candied hawthorns on a stick. Li Changxing focused his gaze, and saw the amulet had summoned the projection of Tai Sui. Officer Zhong glanced at the weapon, and recognized it as the soul-snatching spear. I used to work away from home for years to earn money, and only after losing them did I understand how precious family is. Li Changxing watched his loved ones slowly depart. His grandmother told him to take care of the house, especially the potted plant by the back wall. Your grandfather planted it for you when you were born. Remember to water it. Life is but a dream, empty in the end. My family has gone to the Yuanshan Palace, leaving Changxing here alone, watering a withered potted plant in the corner. When the seedling climbs into the clouds, Changxing's 12 fortunes will begin. The next chapter is packed with information. Ashui is figuring out how to explain it to everyone in a simple and easy to understand way. Follow me so you don't get lost. Di Wang, do you believe that a person's luck and fate are destined to be good from birth? The four most noble types of destiny are called Tai Xing Wang Ku. It means that your luck, wealth, and fate will all be very good. For every noble person, there is also the fallen one. So, there are also four taboos. They are death, extinction, illness, and decline. These four are easy to understand based on their literal meanings. The remaining types of destiny are collectively referred to as Siping Yang. People with 12 different fortunes have 12 different destinies. Among them, longevity is the most auspicious. If someone has this fortune, they will thrive and overcome any danger. Long before Li Changxing was born, his grandfather sought out a longevity root artifact and set up a destiny formation for him. The 12 destinies of natal sound, the longevity formation. Li Changxing should have been rich, noble, and lived a long life. But now, the opposite is true, and he has ended up with a ruined family and lost everything. It was an acquaintance who informed Li Changxing of all this. The day he prayed to heaven for a title, a passing rag-and-bone man tried to take him as a disciple, but he refused. Today, they met again, and the man was after the longevity root in Li Changxing's hand. He immediately tried to exchange it for treasures. Li Changxing looked at the glittering little Luo Fu, then glanced at the broken root in his hand, and shook his head in refusal. He's not stupid. Something that can make such a mysterious being trade for it must be incredibly valuable. The mysterious person outside the wall and Li Changxing's grandfather were old acquaintances. He began to tell Li Changxing about the origin of the root. He handed Li Changxing a box, claiming that everything would become clear once he opened it. But when he opened it, a spider jumped out and bit his finger. Li Changxing thought this person had framed him. He immediately started cursing. The mysterious person spoke calmly. Don't be afraid. This is called a fate-revealing spider. After sucking your blood, it can weave your destiny. Some people's destinies are small, so their paths in life are narrow. There isn't much I can do. I'll accomplish nothing in my entire life. But Li Changxing's destiny, woven by the fate-revealing spider, is vast. This is thanks to the longevity formation his grandfather laid out. Unfortunately, the longevity formation is shrouded in a baleful aura and cannot manifest. This is what led to the ruin of his family. However, the mysterious person doesn't know what this baleful aura corresponds to. Li Changsheng takes the opportunity to ask how much longer he can live. The mysterious figure told him, "Your lifespan diminishes with every reading. Are you sure you want me to proceed?" After receiving Li Changsheng's confirmation, he flicked a finger towards the spiderweb. Rainwater from the sky began to converge on the web of fate. With a soft sound, the god of longevity materialized. However, his back was turned to Li Changsheng. The mysterious figure explained, "The god of longevity facing north means he is leaving you. You'll live to be 20 at most." Instead of getting angry, Li Changsheng secretly rejoiced after hearing this. "I still have 8 years. That's enough." Seeing that he still refused to exchange the treasure, the mysterious person left an address and departed. Li Changsheng hurried to the room where his grandpa kept his tools. He found a file and gently tapped Brother Frog with it. The secrets of the heavenly creations truly work. Brother Frog has been successfully awakened. A rich aura then emanated from him. Outside, the croaking of toads rose and fell, eventually converging at Li Changsheng's feet. Today, thanks to the help of the god of wealth, I advanced to the three-legged, worn-out pouch, now adorned with new clothes. From now on, I'll sail the same boat on the path of immortality. Then, Li Changsheng focused his gaze. It turned out that the toads below were all holding treasures, offering their congratulations. He was happily collecting the treasures left by his descendants, unaware that 2 uninvited guests had arrived at the old house. This woman was his primary school classmate, Wan Honghong. She had unexpectedly escaped death back then, and today, she came to avenge her sister. There's a phenomenon in nature, where birds will set their own nests on fire, because they believe the location is inauspicious. Based on this phenomenon, someone developed a curse, called Ominous Bird Burns Nest. It's a curse specifically targeting residences. Cursing a person requires a personal belonging or their birth date and time. Cursing a house, however, requires using tiles and earth from the property. Wan Honghong, following the aura of the divine book, arrived at Li's house. He intended to burn Li Changsheng alive in this courtyard. He only needed to place this enchanted bird's nest on the courtyard wall to successfully cast the spell. But a blind boy appeared halfway. He pretended to be foolish. While using his cane to probe the way ahead, he walked straight towards the enchanted object. He pretended to fall but secretly broke off a twig from the bird's nest. He made a deal with Zhang Xiaofang. "As long as I subdue Wan Honghong, I can obtain the treasure to cure my mother." Zhang Xiaofang was the ringleader of the school bullying incident. She also didn't escape the fate of losing an eye. She hates Wan Honghong to the bone. After the one-eyed boy obtained the cursed object by trickery, he immediately wanted to use a curse to subdue Wan Honghong. He took out an ancient family book. After a moment of contemplation, I decided to use the sheep god statue. Ancient shepherds often used this statue to command their flocks, hence it's called sheep importance, or weighty sheep. Ashui believes no one can write this character. The white-eyed youth made hand seals. The statue was engulfed in a raging fire. On the other side, Wan Honghong, unaware of the impending disaster, was wondering why a sheep was out strolling in the middle of the night. As she watched in astonishment, the goat reared up and let out a loud cry. A large herd of its companions came running. Then they charged. She was powerless against the goats. Like a flickering candle in the wind, she was tossed back and forth on their horns. The goats dispersed. She lay on the ground, battered and bruised. She was in excruciating pain. Suddenly, he noticed the black line on his finger. He then realized he'd been cursed. Seeing the sheep were about to charge again, Wan Honghong mustered all her strength to sit up. She grasped 2 swallows in her hands, and muttered something to herself. "With each kowtow, I offer 10 years of my life. May this offering bring forth a miracle. My second kowtow offers another 10 years. May your reign last for millennia, bestowed upon me. My third kowtow offers 10 years of my life. May your reign last for millennia, manifest through me." The ritual is complete. Wan Honghong has borrowed the power of Qianqiu Wansui. Now, she is half human, half bird. Then she summoned a dense flock of blackbirds to surround the sheep. With a single command, the blackbirds launched a suicidal attack on the goats. Their momentum was like a swarm of locusts. When the blackbirds dispersed, only a pile of goat bones remained. The curse was broken. The boy with eyes all over his body immediately suffered the backlash of the curse. To save himself, he had to reverse the curse again. He took out an ancient book and chose a divine image. The final decision was to use the owl god to counter the hatred. This entity is the god of evil birds. It is perfectly suited for dealing with Wan Honghong's bird controlling technique. However, the owl god is extremely vicious. If the opponent is not defeated within 3 minutes, it will backfire on the caster. It will suffocate and kill them. With the young man's desperate effort, the owl god's projection was successfully summoned. He aggressively questioned, "You wild bird, why don't you kneel before a god?" With just that one light sentence, Wan Honghong felt as if Mount Tai had fallen on her, sinking into the ground. The ominous god followed close behind, his foot pinning Wan Honghong to the earth. But Wan Honghong showed no fear. He said sinisterly, "You're nothing but a Tao shadow summoned by a talisman. Why should we kneel before you?" With that, her body suddenly split in two. Qianqiu and Wansui revealed their true forms. The two birds flew up and landed on the courtyard wall. Behind them, a giant blood-red sun materialized. Illuminated by this great sun, the calamity's projection uncontrollably bowed its head and kowtowed. 3 resounding kowtows were made. Its vital essence returned to heaven and earth. The Tao shadow dissipated. Then they looked into the courtyard and began to talk. One Hong Hong's enemy is inside. My true body's arrival time is limited. Let's capture him quickly. Before they could even finish making B round, a strange whistle sounded. Qianqiu Wansui trembled all over upon hearing the whistle and was unable to move. Then, a large net swept towards them. An old voice spoke up. After working for half a year, I finally caught these 2 birds. Meanwhile, on the other side, the white-eyed boy, near death, was revived by a hedgehog. The boy slowly regained consciousness and asked, Grandma Bai, is that you? The hedgehog scolded. If you want to save your mother, you must find the inheritor of the copper coin curse. Why should I work with Zhang Xiaofeng? Do you know his great-grandfather's tobacco pipe is a family heirloom? Why would I lend it to you so easily? You were used this time. The Bai disciples just received news that someone used you and Wan Honghong to fight a curse battle, and successfully captured the Qianqiu Wansui. That person is known as the retreating heavenly net, the one even gods avoid. He can scare away all kinds of demons and monsters with just his face, because he possesses the once in a millennium heavenly net face. This facial appearance carries a halo of bad luck. Legend has it that Cao Cao's defeat at the Battle of Red Cliffs was due to spies with this facial appearance infiltrating his camp. Xiang Yu's tragic death was also attributed to having such an ill-omened person by his side. Similarly, because this facial appearance counters all things, even immortals and demons avoid it. Therefore, it is known as the defeated heavenly net. The Zhang family's plan to capture the 1,000-year-old bird is in pursuit of immortality, because these 2 birds have the ability to absorb lifespans. Every kowtow from a mortal sacrifices 10 years of their life. The Luan family has worshipped them for generations, so these 2 birds have absorbed an immeasurable amount of life force. Most importantly, the life force these birds absorb can be transferred to others. Under Tian Luo's interrogation, Wan Honghong slowly explained the method of transferring the life force. This was something she had learned by chance. It turns out that she and her sister were cursed by the fire dragon curse back then. It was a fatal situation, but her sister forcibly swallowed the fire dragon coin. Although this act led to her sister's death, it allowed Wan Honghong to discover a secret. The Qianqiu Wansui can transfer lifespan by borrowing the aura of the copper coin curse book. Wan Honghong was successfully revived. Today, the person holding the book is in this courtyard. If you're capable, go get it yourself. Li Changxing, hiding behind the wall, yelled, Holy crap, how does this even involve me? He quickly asked Froggy, if we team up against this guy, what are our chances of winning? Froggy gave him a tactful answer. The aura emanating from this person, even Master Chan might not be able to stop it. Hearing this, Li Changxing felt that he would surely die today. That Wan Honghong was like his nemesis. If it weren't for her, his Li family wouldn't have been exterminated. Hearing his lament, Froggy had a sudden inspiration. Your longevity formation is enveloped by baleful energy because your fate is cursed by a nemesis. The only upside is that you are destined to die at the hands of your nemesis. In other words, others might not be able to kill you. Hearing this, Li Changxing's eyes lit up. He immediately decided to trick this person. He pretended to be clueless as he walked out of the house, greeting his former classmates. Having retreated from Tian Luo, he acted decisively. Seeing the main culprit emerge, he immediately stepped forward and demanded the whereabouts of the divine book. This played right into Li Changxing's hands. He handed over the Tongxian Yenxing book without hesitation, because the holder of the book must not look back at the book spirit. Breaking this rule is certain death. He preemptively removed the copper coin and laid in the center of the divine book, because he observed that each time the book spirit materialized from the copper coin, he just needed Froggy's cooperation. At the critical moment, Froggy would spit the coin out in front of him. That way, he could defeat this troublesome heavenly net formation. Things unfolded exactly as Li Changxing had planned. Tian Luo was overjoyed after obtaining the Book of Curses. But this guy is dishonorable. He wants to kill me to silence me after getting the treasure. News of him obtaining these 2 supreme treasures cannot get out. Li Changxing also took the opportunity to offer the golden toad. He claimed it could suppress the aura of the divine book. He only asked to exchange it for his life. Tian Luo was once again overjoyed. He had countless lifespans in his left hand, and the tool to convert them in his right. With the golden toad suppressing his aura, he felt invincible. He then kicked Zhang Xiaofeng against the wall. The Zhang family had enslaved him for decades. He'd kill one of their direct descendants first to vent his hatred. He bit his finger and, with his lifeblood, drew a talisman. Then, he violently splashed the blood. Everyone inside was splattered with the blood of the defeated. Tian Luo stared at them and said, "Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Whether you live or die depends on how tough you are." He then turned and left. A moment later, the blood of the defeated attracted countless flying insects. Zhang Xiaofeng was the first to suffer. She was arrogant, bullying, vicious, and ruthless. In the end, she couldn't escape fate's judgment. The bloodworms swarmed over her, devouring her completely. Not even a single bone remained. Li Changsheng was also a little anxious. Because Brother Frog was worried something might happen to Li Changsheng after he left. He had already sent a message to the nearest fellow Taoist for help, but the bloodworms were closing in, and my help was nowhere in sight. This golden toad ate the insects from 100 acres of land every day, just to fatten himself up quickly. After countless years of persistence, he finally mutated into the flying tiger general. His plump physique looks very powerful. Today, he was invited to a grand feast between the sea and the sky. The bloodworms, rich in spiritual power, are a great tonic for him, but even after devouring all the bloodworms, it didn't close its mouth. It continued to try and swallow Li Changsheng. The immense suction force pulled him closer and closer to the giant maw. He cried out hurriedly, "Senior, please withdraw your divine ability." The flying tiger toad shook its head. "I'm not full yet. How can I close my mouth?" Li Changsheng remembered the golden toad's greed, so he took a gold ingot out of his pocket and tossed it to him. The gold ingot entered its mouth, but it continued to shake its head. "Not enough, not enough. I need 5 or 6 more." Li Changsheng had to continue throwing out his recent windfall, but the flying tiger still shook its head. "Not enough, not enough. Just a little bit more." Li Changsheng was heartbroken. The chance to become a millionaire slipped away. He gritted his teeth and threw in all his treasures. The flying tiger toad refused nothing. It was said to devour wealth, treasures, and even mountains and seas, until Li Changsheng didn't have a single coin left in his pocket. Then he just up and left. Thankfully, the crisis was averted. Li Changsheng was about to follow Froggy's scent to meet up with him, when Wan Honghong, who had also narrowly escaped death, called out to her, "Li Changsheng, you're really hard to kill. You actually survived that." Li Changsheng demonstrated for everyone how to respond to a girl's teasing. "Get the hell out of here. Don't die in front of my house." Going back to Bai Tui Tian Luo, as the current strongest character in this show, he's also a tragic figure. His real name is Feng Babuai. Shortly after he was born, he brought death to all his close relatives. He was then adopted by the passing Master Zhang. "I became a watchdog, a mere guard dog. When I was 8, I contracted a strange illness. My bones convulsed violently, causing me unbearable pain. The Zhang family didn't seek treatment for me. Instead, they cruelly locked me in a dark room. My screams could be heard for miles around. When I regained consciousness, my body was as if it had been twisted and elongated from 8 skeletons." He initially mastered the Decline constellation. The Zhang family then placed him within a rival company. Relying on the Decline constellation's ability to diminish all things, he gradually rose to become the leading enterprise. When he was no longer useful, the Zhang family branded a 9 ghosts bone-grinding diagram onto his back, to suppress the aura of Decline. But the Decline constellation only appears once every 10,000 years. The 9 ghosts diagram couldn't suppress it forever, so they branded him with it every day. He finally couldn't bear the torture, and secretly swallowed a bottle of sleeping pills to kill himself. But he didn't die. Instead, his consciousness entered the depths of his soul. He saw 9 little ghosts gnawing on a strange skeleton. When the little ghosts dispersed, the skeleton spoke. "You finally came in. I am your great-granduncle, Feng Shirley." After a conversation, Feng Babai learned the truth. His predisposition to failure was man-made/artificial/engineered. Someone placed bones imbued with the essence of failure into the Feng family's ancestral home, and planted a curse. This is why later generations have been plagued by constant failure. It bred a declining Tian Luo formation. But heaven and earth leave a sliver of hope for all things. When decline reaches its extreme, fortune will turn. Destroying the cursed object of the Yen Shu will reverse the misfortune, and the mastermind will be easy to deduce. Whoever profits from the declining Tian Luo formation is the one who cast the curse. Now that he has gathered 2 supreme treasures, he will soon be able to take revenge on the Li family. As usual, the holder of the book must first sign it with their blood. Feng Babai encountered the same problem as Li Changsheng. The copper coin curse book has been circulating in the human world for too long. The space for signing with blood was already full, but he inadvertently glanced at the empty space left after Li Changsheng pried off the copper coin. Without hesitation, he bit his finger. He pressed his fingerprint onto the book cover. It was this very act that the charm paper on the copper coin amulet fell off, like a beast freed from its lock. It violently covered Feng Babai's face and began to devour him. The birthday feasts of the wealthy are full of hidden meanings. Besides the offerings, a rabbit must be placed on the table. Passing deities will possess the rabbit. Once it finishes the bowl of chicken soup beside it, the birthday feast is considered complete, because the immortals passing by, after eating and drinking their fill, will bestow additional years of life. The host of the birthday banquet will also live to a ripe old age because of this. However, this birthday feast, known as the Pingzu feast, isn't something just anyone can afford to host, because it requires an entire day's flowing banquet. Everyone is welcome to attend. Today is the birthday feast of the Zhang family's patriarch. The wealthy and prestigious families in the city have all brought their gifts of congratulations, but these beggars want to shamelessly eat it all for themselves. The leader smoothly delivered a birthday congratulatory speech. The fifth miss of the Zhang family remembered what her grandfather had told her. Passing immortals don't discriminate, so everyone who comes must be offered a seat. These beggars had never tasted such delicacies before, each of them acting like a reincarnated starving ghost. After they had devoured a whole table of food, they showed no signs of stopping. They picked up the plates and licked them clean. A faint copper coin imprint appeared on their tongues. Suddenly, everyone went mad and bit down on their plates. Seeing this bizarre scene, the house guards stood guard in front of the altar. The Pengzu feast cannot be interrupted. It might anger the gods who are currently feasting, but these beggars clearly didn't want the Zhang family to have their way. Everyone stared fiercely at Jiaxi in front of the altar. This group of performers seemed to be crazed, rushing towards the altar like zombies in a movie. It looked like the servants were about to be overwhelmed, but one hand firmly grabbed the lead performer. He stuck out his tongue and looked closely. He recognized the hungry ghost pattern on it. It was clear that someone was deliberately causing trouble with a hex. The newcomer was Zhang Ruyun, the fourth son of the Zhang family. He immediately pulled out the tongues of all the Qi Xie. The tongues, like living things, jumped and thrashed in the fire. They were quickly reduced to ashes. The Qi Xie then collapsed, unconscious. Without the suppression of the aversion technique, their overstuffed bellies swelled up again. Zhang Ruyun ordered his servants to send them to the hospital and then continued the banquet. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The beggars on the ground arched their backs and stood up, their bellies swelling continuously. From a distance, they looked like bowls filled with rice. Feng Babai also emerged from the shadows. I've specially prepared the Hungry Ghost Curse and the Longevity Bowl Curse to celebrate the old man's birthday. People fear unexpected misfortunes. Incense sticks fear two short and one long. The death-calling copper coins appear. The three ghosts of Yongzhou emerge. Following his command, puffs of smoke, two short and one long, began to rise from the beggar's belly. Some bolder servants tried to throw him out, but this action seemed to trigger some kind of switch. The beggar let out a long, loud fart. The servants guarding the altar were also controlled by this foul air. It turned and began tearing at the offerings on the altar. Li Ruyun rushed forward to stop it. Seeing the servant afflicted by the copper coin curse again, he guessed it was likely the Tong Yen sect causing trouble. He initially wanted to remove the copper coin from the servant's head, but his hand was suddenly grabbed. The copper coin flashed green, and the curse was transferred to Li Ruyun's hand. Fortunately, his reaction was quick. His arm trembled. The black tattoo appeared, breaking the curse. Feng Babai sneered from the side. I had heard that the fourth son of the Li family was born with an unusual birthmark. Now I see. This unusual birthmark truly lives up to its name. Li Ruyun was taken aback when his secret was exposed. But what surprised him even more was the void translocation technique used by the person opposite him. Only renowned figures in the Jianhu are capable of such a technique. Moreover, there haven't been any signs of celestial or divine reincarnation recently. That person clearly had the chance to ruin the Pengzu feast just now, but he didn't. His purpose here is definitely not simple. Before he could ponder further, the sound of rumbling drums suddenly arose beside him. The Three Ghosts of Yongzhou is a mocking nickname for three Ming Dynasty emperors. During their lifetime, they brought down the Ming Dynasty, but in death, they control the souls of the fallen Ming soldiers. This curse is unstoppable by human power, because you would be facing the souls of all the Ming soldiers. Li Ruyun naturally couldn't withstand it. He was captured after a single charge. Even his Black Dragon Scales technique was just a momentary resurgence against the endless onslaught of souls. Although none of them were a match for him individually, a swarm of ants can still kill an elephant. He was completely drained of energy, surrounded by soldiers on all sides. It was only when he saw the leader's face that he burst out laughing. Feng Babai. So it's you, you bastard. The chain's loose. It even dares to bite its master. Feng Babai is a man of few words, but ruthless action. His blade slashed down on his arm. Faced with Feng Babai's various taunts, Li Ruyun wasn't angered at all. He had seen through everything. You're not killing me, but stalling for time instead. Isn't it just to lure more of the Li family into your cursed game? I'll do the opposite of what you want. With that, he bit his tongue and ended his life. The cursed individual breathed no more. The curse slowly dissipated. Feng Babu knelt on the ground in pain. Although he had drawn first blood, he was being consumed by the divine book. Every time he fought a curse, he had to offer his lifespan to the divine book. I had planned to annihilate the entire Li family, but with the little lifespan I have left, I can only curse them once more. Someone skinned and deboned the ox head and horse face, refining them into two divine books. The Yin book captures souls. The Yang book summons them. These two books together control the passage of sacred objects between the Yin and Yang realms. If someone were to control both books, they could potentially control the 6 paths of reincarnation. But because the divine book caused too much carnage, its spirit became corrupted by malevolent energy and went mad. Later, Shui sealed it with a spirit-suppressing talisman. Whoever holds this book, remember, your duty is to purify the grudges within it. Never allow this book to cause further bloodshed, or you will be devoured by its spirit. The day the divine book is unsealed, your soul will also be scattered. If I, Feng Babui, can destroy the Zhang family, what does it matter if my soul is scattered? I only regret that my lifespan is insufficient, allowing me to kill only one Zhang family elder. Boundless Life Sutra. Along with Feng Babui's technique, a copper coin mark began to manifest on Qi Xie's belly. A towering tree took root in his belly and materialized. The giant tree slowly opened its trunk. A figure gradually materialized. It was a Kundi Bodhisattva, holding scriptures. He recited the immeasurable Life Sutra. White lotuses began to spontaneously appear all around. The commotion in the hall finally attracted the Zhang family patriarch. He dismissed his family and faced it alone. This level of Yenqing curse was beyond the reach of ordinary people. But old Master Zhang wasn't panicked at all, because he was the reincarnation of the Death God. He had already cultivated to the first realm of the Death God. He looked at the white-robed Guanyin opposite him and slowly spoke. You have Feng Babui's aura on you, and you can perform such a profound Yashing spell. You must have obtained the Yashing divine book. Feng Babui looked smug. Not only the Yashing book, but the Qianqiu Wansui is also in my hands. The Zhang family has persecuted me for so many years. Today, I will make you pay in blood. Then, he spread open the scripture, and began to chant. His voice grew louder and louder. Following the guidance of the scripture, countless crimson lotuses began to converge on Master Zhang. Seeing him surrounded by white lotuses, Feng Babai made another hand seal. From the lotuses, numerous white-clad spectral figures materialized. A dense chorus of chanting echoed in Master Li's ears. Not only that, the beggars' bellies in the arena began to swell under the influence of the white lotuses. There was no place left to stand in the arena. Master Zhang was also surrounded by countless bellies. A loud bang. All their bellies exploded simultaneously. Grandmaster Zhang merely covered his nose with one hand, completely unharmed. Feng Babai was in disbelief. His life-draining suppressing magic had no effect on him. Grandmaster Zhang began to explain without even bothering to open his eyes. The Infinite Descent Sutra was created by the White Lotus sect. Suppressing beings within the 6 paths is fine, but it's useless against me. I am no longer within the 6 paths. Then, he finally opened his eyes. In an instant, thunder rumbled across the sky. He summoned the phantom of a thunder god above the hotel. A bolt of 9 heavens lightning suddenly struck down. It locked onto Feng Babu directly. The lightning bolt struck him right between the eyes, blasting his soul to smithereens. Even a ruthless person wielding 2 supreme treasures wasn't a match for old Master Zhang. Back then, with his hands in his pockets, he didn't know what an opponent was. But Feng Babu had already been consumed by the book soul. So, Feng Babu's death has nothing to do with me, the book soul. It is said that since the Han Dynasty, some gifted individuals have discovered a way to retain their memories and reincarnate. By arranging artifacts in a specific formation within their tombs, they can become deities after death. These individuals are called deceased gods. They exist outside the 5 elements and are detached from the 6 realms. In life, they solely pursue the 4 realms of the deceased god. However, they are still bound by the limitations of the 6 realms. Born with the Thunderbolt Scar birthmark, over time, they can briefly wield the power of thunder in their struggle against heavenly tribulation. Feng Baibai's opponent was the Zhang family patriarch, a death god first turn, cloaked in 9 heavens, cultivator. But by now, his soul had already been scattered. Controlling this body was a book spirit, broken free from its seal. It will use a trace of Feng Baibai's resentment as a guide, to continue channeling the incomplete, boundless descent grand technique. This death-defying technique underwent a tremendous transformation in the hands of the book soul. Just the condensed Dharma form alone is countless times larger than the one Feng Ba failed to create earlier. The most important factor is his rich experience. He knows that although the path of the dead is not part of the 6 realms, it retains the memories of past lives. This is a huge advantage, but also the most fatal flaw, because he will retain the obsession from his previous life. This is the heart tribulation for a death god breaking through from the 1st to the 2nd realm. Overcoming it will open the door to the 2nd realm. Failing to overcome it will result in him being eternally lost in his obsession. The book soul will use its boundless Dharma body as a guide, to pull old Master Li into the memories of his past life. This will cause him to face the 2nd realm heart tribulation prematurely. He cries out in agony, unwilling to face this premature tribulation. He was pulled into an illusion in a daze. The man's name was Zhang Jun. 3 generations of his family were farmers. But he studied hard and held hope for the future. Finally, he graduated. At the age of 20, he returned to his village and became a teacher. But he didn't know that even in this simple mountain village, disgusting people existed. One day, he kindly went to a student's home to help fix a dough-making machine. The widowed mother and her daughter were very hospitable, offering him tea and water. Until evening, they asked Mr. Zhang to stay for dinner. The mother urged her daughter to keep offering him drinks, until they were both drunk. The mother revealed her true intentions. She put them both in the same bed. It was the age of raging hormones, coupled with the stimulation of alcohol. Ashui knows you don't want to see it, so I'll skip to the next morning. Mr. Zhang woke up at a loss. But his sense of responsibility as a man made him decide to take responsibility. The wedding was held quickly. The villagers all said he fixed the noodle machine. And married a fool. That's right. His wife, young Dan, has a mild intellectual disability. But it doesn't affect her daily life. The two soon had a child. But young Dan's mother was a terrible person. She gambled away all the betrothal gifts and ran off. Young June and young Dan were also evicted by creditors. To pay off the debt, Zhang Jun took his wife home but didn't even step inside. His family hadn't approved of the marriage, let alone now that he was penniless. Finally, they found a dilapidated thatched hut at the foot of a hill and settled down. Even then, Zhang Jun was still full of hope for the future. He taught during the day, and gathered hazelnuts in the mountains at night. Hazelnuts were fetching a high price back then. If he could just hold on for another year, he could build a big, flat house for his wife and child. He couldn't wait to share his joy with his wife. There's a fertile patch on the north side of Mount Gang, he said. The hazelnuts there are big and plentiful. Young Dan snuggled against his chest and replied, it truly is a good place. Let's be buried in that blessed land when we die. Just as life was getting better, Zhang Jun fell ill. The village's barefoot doctor couldn't cure him. They went to the city hospital for a checkup, and were told he had lymphoma. His family couldn't afford the high cost of chemotherapy, and had to return to their thatched hut. The foolish wife could only cry helplessly on the side, until one day, young Dan's mother returned. She excitedly told young Dan that she had a way to cure Zhang Jun. She told her daughter that Zhang Jun had offended the evil spirits in the mountains. As long as they built a wall of blue bricks around the thatched cottage, he would be fine. The foolish wife, after hearing her mother-in-law's words, took out her little remaining savings to buy a pile of blue bricks for her. But Zhang Jun's condition didn't improve at all. Instead, it worsened day by day. Yang's mother rushed to his bedside again. Zhang Jun, I have another way to save you. I just consulted a fortune teller, and it's young Dan's name that's harming you. Give me your private savings. I asked someone to change her name. Young Jun weakly said she had no money left, but Yang's mother kept nagging. That fortune teller is very cheap. It only costs 1,000 yuan. I have no money. I don't have any money. These were Young Jun's last words. The pain in his heart brought Patriarch Zhang back to his senses. These unforgettable scenes felt like they happened just yesterday. He didn't understand why, being human just like everyone else, his fate was so difficult. He didn't do evil, he didn't lose heart. Why could he only live to 30? The other Dharma image continued to imitate Yang's mother's voice, bewitching him. Zhang Jun, oh Zhang Jun, aren't you better yet? Just swallow these white snakes, and you'll be cured. He married a simple-minded woman, but was killed by his mother-in-law's folk remedy. His wife remembered their agreement, and buried him in the heart of Yingang Mountain. This place is a natural paradise. Zhang Jun accidentally reincarnated as the death god. His wife, young Dan, is a bit simple-minded. She doesn't know how to express her longing for her husband, so she adds her name, Dan, into the middle of Zhang Jun's name on his tombstone. She believes this shows she's always with him. In this life, Zhang Jun. After many years, his mother-in-law's voice echoes in his ears again. Zhang Jun, your illness can be cured. Just swallow these white snakes. Your illness will be cured. Young Dan and the child are still waiting for you to earn money to build a house. These are the memories Zhang Jun is most reluctant to recall. The enemy used this to break his concentration and make him vulnerable. Under the pain of being devoured by thousands of snakes, even he, the death god, in the transition realm, couldn't withstand it. Zhang Jun, my dear son-in-law, how did you die again? Just as he finished speaking, the ornament on Zhang Jun's neck shattered. Inside it held his most precious memory from his past life, and his deepest obsession. A wisp of his wife young Dan's remaining soul appeared. She was so delusional she couldn't even tell the monster in front of her wasn't her mother. She only remembered that her husband had been good to her. He never disliked her. But now her husband was on the ground. She finally snapped. She finally dared to yell at her mother. Mom, did you use your folk remedies on Zhang Jun again? My dad died in his hospital bed back then. Did you use some folk remedy to kill him too? Do you even consider us your family? A woman is inherently weak, but she becomes strong when she becomes a mother. This time, it was young Dan who stood up to protect her husband. The inner demons dispersed, and the birthmark on his face slowly faded away. His obsession was never about hatred or resentment, but worry. He didn't know how his simple wife would live after his death. He feared his child and wife would be bullied, but after he sensed his simple wife finally learned to fight back, his inner demons dissipated. A death god transformed can ascend to the heavens. Now he had overcome his tribulation. I just need to return to the place where I died in my past life to break through to the second stage. Zhang Jun, half a step into the second stage, once again faced Foam Renbai, controlled by the book spirit. With a simple wave of his hand, he reduced him to ashes. The Thousand Autumns, Myriad Years technique and the coin curse also ended up in his possession. Li Changsheng, who had been secretly observing for a long time, felt that this wouldn't do. If he wanted to get the divine book back, he had to risk it all. Fortunately, Brother Frog had stored quite a bit inside the nailed clothes. In order to suppress the divine book's aura, just use breath to create an illusion. Deceive Zhang Jun into signing a pact with the divine. Then, we can use the rule of unfaced master to deal with him. The illusion successfully frightened Zhang Jun, but he was unwilling to sign the divine pact. It turns out that joining the Yansheng sect brings 5 misfortunes and 3 deficiencies. He died at the age of 30 in his past life. After the reincarnation of the death god, this is his ultimate fate. He's been in a deep sleep for years. He dares to wake up on his grand birthday celebration. If the 5 hindrances and 3 deficiencies randomly select a life deficiency, I'm afraid he'll die instantly. Hearing this, Li Changsheng cursed inwardly. He hurriedly spoke up. Don't worry about his lifespan. The curse of avoidance in your hand can convert millennia of lifespan for your own use. Overjoyed at these words, Zhang Jun bit his finger and signed the divine book in blood. Meanwhile, Brother Frog spat out the copper coin. The true book spirit emerged from within, facing its master. All the cursed objects entered the Yensheng underworld. 2 large hands reached out to grab his neck. 2 necks stretched out from the book. He quickly summoned his 9 heavens robe to withstand the downward pull. Another small ghost appeared behind him. This is the book spirit's curse of imprinting souls. Life is as fragile as paper. All beings are like ants. Every time the little ghost strikes with the hammer, it marks. Free. Paper charms, exposed to the sun. Although he used the potassium channel technique in time, he only managed to save. He was also enraged. In his fury, he wanted to burn this cursed book. He summoned the annihilating flame from the path of apotheosis. The extinguishing flame transformed into 9 golden crows and began to incinerate the book. He continued to cast spells, confronting the divine book. But gradually, he sensed his flames weakening. Just as he was puzzled, the white-eyed youth approached from afar and explained, "Your lifespan of 100 years is almost up. That's why your magic is getting weaker. I heard that old Master Zhang has a tobacco pipe that even snake deities fear. I want to borrow it." Zhang Jun immediately realized this person was trying to take advantage of the chaos. He was about to cast a spell to deal with him. But the young man with the contemptuous look, instead, calmly took out another book of hex-breaking spells. "I see you're quite enthusiastic about burning this one. Help me burn this one too." With that, he threw the hex-breaking book into the fire. Immediately, something strange happened. The 2 sacred books instantly moved towards each other. Transforming into a giant gate, it instantly broke through the annihilating fire. The yin-yang grimoires transformed into the cursing gate. Something a mere first transformation death god realm cultivator like him couldn't withstand. He felt his soul constantly being pulled into the gate. And soon, he lost. After dealing with Zhang Jun, Li Changsheng came to express his gratitude. The 2 wanted to catch up, but unexpectedly, the cursing gate suddenly went berserk. It was the crazed book spirit trying to break free. Fortunately, the white-eyed boy quickly asked Froggy for the copper coins on the book cover. These could suppress the book demon. The copper coins returned to their place. The suppressing seal on the door shattered. But the 2 didn't get far, before the already dilapidated building collapsed. Unconscious, the breath emerging from the fire-swallowing tattoo on Li Changsheng's shoulder was that of his grandfather, who resided within the tattoo. He approached the lifeless Zhang Jun. First, he absorbed his 9 heavens cloak. Then, he took in the 1,000 autumns and 10,000 years. "You can't grasp the path of the dead. Let me walk it for you instead." Then, his figure slowly faded away, leaving behind only a door frame engulfed in blazing flames. Ashui couldn't quite figure it out. Was this a scheme set up by his grandfather, Li Yulong, or just a coincidence? The workers, tempted by money, actually dared to splash black dog blood on the sacred statue. There's a snake god temple on Changling Mountain. Because it grants every prayer, it's deeply beloved by the surrounding villagers. A pregnant woman was taken by her mother-in-law to a temple to pray for a grandson. Unexpectedly, a construction crew arrived that day to demolish the temple and level the mountain. Upon hearing this, the villagers rushed to stop them. The foreman produced a demolition notice, and claimed to have already planted explosives. He warned them to leave the mountain or face the consequences. Hearing this, the people stampeded down the mountain. The pregnant woman, jostled by the crowd, felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. "I had to rest in a pavilion halfway up the mountain." The foreman here, seeing the crowd had dispersed, ordered the explosives to be detonated. When the smoke cleared, only a lone snake god statue remained in the ruins. Seeing this, the workers knelt on the ground, afraid to get up. This angered the foreman. He threatened their wages, and the crowd reluctantly got up. He then took out a bag of black dog blood and splashed it on the statue. Clearly, someone knowledgeable was advising him. He promised the workers triple their bonus. Whoever dared to smash the statue would get it. A hefty reward always attracts a brave soul. A worker stepped forward. His child was seriously ill and he desperately needed the money. Even though his co-workers tried to persuade him that the snake god temple was very efficacious, he resolutely smashed it. With a few blows, the snake's head fell off. The foreman threw him a chisel wrapped in red cloth, and told him to gouge out the statue's eyes. He promised him another 10,000 upon completion. At this point, the man could only obey. He told himself that nothing in the world was more terrifying than poverty. But that chisel blow stirred up a hornet's nest. No, wait, it stirred up a snake's nest. The once silent forest came alive. Snakes swarmed, surrounding everyone. Luckily, the tobacco pipe borrowed for him by the person behind him saved him. The snakes were terrified of it, but not all the other workers were so lucky. One of his trusted men loudly reminded him to light the pipe quickly. The foreman hurriedly took out his lighter. But then, a thunderclap struck out of nowhere. The sky suddenly started to drizzle. He remembered what the Zhang family had said, that the pipe mustn't get wet. He wanted to run off quickly. But at that moment, the statue slowly bent down and picked up its own head. Then the mountain shook violently. Clearly, a great battle had taken place. Because the previous plot mentioned the snake goddess's eyes. One was taken by the Lin family, and the other was intercepted by the Fuqing sect. But when gods fight, mortals suffer. The pregnant woman was buried under the collapsing pavilion. The little life in her belly was her only hope of survival. I don't know how many days had passed, when she heard a noise above her. It was a hedgehog carrying 2 snake eggs. Don't underestimate the hedgehog. It's a shamanic messenger from the north. A self-proclaimed immortal among the fox, weasel, hedgehog, snake, and rat. Relying on these 2 snake eggs, the woman held on until rescuers arrived. The pregnant woman went into labor. They set up a temporary tent at the foot of the mountain and she began to give birth. But when Grandma went to pour out the amniotic fluid, she noticed 2 old women standing not far from the tent. One was dressed in white, with disheveled hair. The woman with the disheveled hair spoke first. You destroyed my temple and gouged out my eyes. Does this have anything to do with your Bai family? The Lin family bombed the temple. The Fuqing sect stole the eye. Then why did you make her swallow my child? You seized my Tianfeng mountain and renamed it Changling Mountain. And you killed countless Bai family descendants. Do our grievances need further explanation? This family is connected to me by fate. I will protect them today. They were able to bomb your temple, which means the serpent palace formation you laid out in the city has been broken. Your Dharma body has suffered great damage. Now, our powers are more or less equal. The serpent goddess was silent for a long time. After some thought, she replied, even if she swallowed my egg, she won't be any better. I've carved a mother's curse on it. I've already taken that woman's soul. As for that child, I will return at the hour of heaviest ean to take his eyes. That child was me, born with snake eyes. My parents named me Zhang Shatong. After listening to the young man's story, Li Changsheng didn't pay attention to anything else. First, I asked him when Double Yin Day was. Zhang Shatong explained. Yin and Yang are mutually generative. The night of Double Ninth Festival is Double Yin Day. He added, every year on Double Yin Day, I would hide in Grandma Bai's temple. I grew up under her protection. Not long ago, I lost a cursed battle and was about to suffer backlash. Grandma Bai had me sign a pact with the White Scourge deity to break the curse. She sensed the young book seal had been broken, so she projected her soul into the book. With her and the 2 books of Yin and Yang working together, they're sure to defeat that snake god. Li Changsheng counted on his fingers. The Double Ninth Festival is in 5 days. Zhang Shatong already had a plan. If the snake god dares to come then, I'll trap her with my tobacco pipe, and then I'll bring her into the Yensheng Gate. This method kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only can I save my mother's soul, but I can also replenish the divine book's spiritual power to better suppress the book demon. Unlike the last time I met with Master, this time, if they want to open the Yensheng Gate, they'll need to find 2 sacred objects to act as keys. After agreeing to meet Li Changsheng again on the Double Ninth Festival, he set out to find the lost relic. To save his little master, he fought a fierce dog. But when his master returned, he mistakenly thought the dog had gone mad and bitten the child. As his master sharpened the knife, he narrowly escaped. Decades later, he smelled the familiar scent again. There was no resentment in his heart, only the joy of reunion. The aged dog was as happy as a child. His former little master had grown up, and recognized the now elderly Lumi. Back then, his injury had prevented him from explaining to his parents, causing Lumi to suffer endless injustice. But before they could enjoy their reunion, the man suddenly collapsed. Li Changsheng happened to be at the clinic to pick up Lumi, and a renowned doctor was nearby. After the man recovered a little, the divine doctor stepped forward and took his pulse. The man's breathing was extremely weak. His body was utterly depleted. He then checked the man's tongue coating. It surprisingly exhibited the strange phenomenon of double intersecting lines. If an ordinary person has spleen and stomach issues, the most severe symptom would only be a single intersecting line on their tongue coating. Even the king of hell would scratch his head at this interwoven pattern. The old doctor then performed his masterful moxibustion technique on the man. The mox's chi flowed through all the man's acupuncture points, but it refused to enter his stomach. The old doctor frowned. Your spleen and stomach chi is completely gone. How long has it been since you've eaten? The man unexpectedly replied that he hadn't eaten in over 10 years, and his parents also starved to death. This happened the night after LV May left. The child was trembling all over. Seeing this, the mother wanted to take the child to the hospital, but the father stopped her. The child was just frightened by what happened during the day. I'll give him some millet and turn it around a bit, he'll be fine. I was scared like that when I was a child. That's how my grandma used to do it. It always worked. The older generation believed that if a child was startled, it meant they were being haunted by something unclean. As long as you fed it, it would go away. My father took some of the child's clothes, and wrapped them around the bowl of rice. Then he placed it on the child's head, muttering to myself, when thirsty, drink water. When hungry, eat rice. Then turn left 7 times. Turn right 7 times. When I open my clothes, the bowl full of rice will only have half left. This proves the child is truly possessed. My father turned the bowl like that, turned it and turned it. He repeated this 7 times. Sure enough, the child stopped shivering. He handed the bowl of millet to my mother. Then he tore up the cloth he'd wrapped around the bowl. He explained that the cloth used in the ritual couldn't be kept. It had to be torn up. But when I turned around, I saw my mother pour the leftover millet back into the jar. That was bad. Not only couldn't I keep the clothes, but the leftover millet couldn't be poured back in either. Strange things started happening at home from that day on. The half bag of millet was gone the next day, leaving only an empty bag. My father thought it was the dog we just kicked out that had come back to steal food, so he bought another bag, and locked the door tightly. That night, strange things happened again. Strange noises came from the room where the grain was stored. Father fumbled out of bed. He saw the grain sack shaking uncontrollably. At that moment, still groggy from being woken up, he didn't think much of it. He thought it was the dog sneaking food. He then started knocking on the bag. When there was no more movement from the bag, he realized the hemp rope at the opening was still tightly tied. How could the dog have gotten inside? He hurriedly opened the bag to check, but it was completely empty inside. Not a single grain of millet was left. At that moment, his mother also rushed out with the child in a panic. That strange sound had moved to the main room. The two slowly opened the door and looked inside. The sound was coming from a basket hanging from the rafters. The man was now enraged. Whatever it was, if it dared to frighten his wife and child, it would suffer the consequences. He grabbed a hoe and smashed it against the basket. The strange sound abruptly stopped. Meanwhile, many small round masses were also pointed out in the basket. He focused his gaze. To his shock, those round masses were all mouse bones. Before he could think it through, the bones suddenly scattered. The foul-smelling liquid spread all over the ground. Still in a daze, the basket above suddenly fell, landing squarely on his head. The man tried to resist, but that strange sound rang out again. He immediately lowered his arms, and stood completely still. Seeing him like this, his wife fought back her fear and called out to him. Suddenly, a bloody eye opened in the hole. His wife, as if her soul had been hooked, stood beside her husband. From that night on, neither of them moved, until they starved to death. Only their child, left behind, survived. But strangely, he hadn't eaten in 10 years and was still alive. After hearing the man's story, the old doctor prepared to send him away. Because in traditional Chinese medicine, there are 3 kinds of people they won't treat. They don't treat the wicked. They don't treat karmic ailments. The man's strange illness was most likely a karmic one. It was possible that it was caused by the sins of his ancestors, which their descendants had to bear. This was the way of heaven and medicine. The old doctor dared not interfere. Kicked the two out of the shop. A big red rooster goose steps. Who doesn't know my overalls? A curse master with 2.5 years of experience is performing a spiritual ritual. I urgently need support with emoticons of AI Kuan. This method allows one to gain the perspective of the Ong Tong Star official, specifically targeting paranormal entities hidden in deep space. In order to investigate the strange illness afflicting Zhou Ping, Li Changxing started the ritual under Brother Frog's guidance. Brother Chicken shuddered and sucked his departing soul into his mouth. When Li Changxing opened his eyes again, his world was only black and red. He also saw many rat bones buried under the floor. But these were not the talismans. He continued to explore forward. 2 strange birds were painted on the wall. Above the strange bird was a large open door, and the mural on the door looked somewhat familiar. Li Changxing focused his gaze. The mural was clearly the 9 heavens cloak, only attainable after the first transformation of the death god. While he was pondering the connection between this object and the death god, a pair of glowing eyes suddenly appeared above the mural. With a whooshing gust of wind, a large bird appeared behind him. Trespassers. Die. Without a word, it began fiercely pecking at the chick Li Changxing had transformed into. Feathers flew everywhere. Li Changxing couldn't even dodge. When the dust settled, he was completely plucked bare. Just as the strange bird was about to deliver the final blow, attracted by the tattoo on Li Changxing's back, he didn't know when 2 long-lived 10,000 years tattoos had appeared on his back. But the effect was excellent. The large bird hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, primordial spirit. Long live 10,000 years." Li Changsheng immediately exploited the situation. He claimed to be a servant of the immortal Qianqiu Wansui, and began inquiring about the cause of the problem. It turned out that there had been a plague of rats here years ago, a massive infestation. Even the cats couldn't survive. The rats ate all the stored grain, and the people were living in dire straits. One day, a sorcerer passed through. "Please bring the chicken statue, and place it in the Zhou family's house." At the call of the chicken statue, countless owls flew to the village. During the day, they diligently watched over the villagers' grain from the treetops. At night, they gathered in groups to catch the mice. Soon, the village regained order. Not a single mouse could be found. To repay the life-saving grace of the cuckoo, the sorcerer repeatedly instructed to offer a bowl of millet in front of the statue every day. After 5 years, the favor could be repaid. But the Zhou family was selfish. Within half a year, they privately consumed the food offered by the villagers. Crows are not inherently evil birds. At first, he only ate the Zhou family's stored grain to warn them. But who knew the Zhou family would go to Chongling Mountain, bring a statue of a phoenix riding immortal to suppress him? Until the day the statue was blown down by an evil wind, it not only saved Greenbrow, but also released the one who was suppressed. Until then, he hadn't thought about harming anyone, only eating the millet from their grain bags. But the man shouldn't have smashed the bamboo basket on the rafter. This place is the chicken's gizzard. What's more, their family broke the taboo against reselling millet. The Zhou family repeatedly provoked me, so I, the chicken god, took this opportunity to kill them, leaving only one descendant to suffer the pangs of hunger every day. After hearing this, Li Changsheng pretended to advise me, the chicken god. "Vengeance will never end. Stop it." But before he could finish his act, a grid appeared on the back of Qianqiu Wansui. Haoshen immediately recognized it as the Tian Luonet, the bane of birds. He instantly realized the person before him wasn't some attendant boy, but the murderer who captures primordial spirits. Inside the parrot realm, Li Changsheng was seized. Meanwhile, outside the crow realm, he foamed at the mouth, on the verge of meeting his end. Fortunately, Li Changsheng managed to send out a message. Brother Frog then remembered the flute he picked up from Baitui's body. This is a flute made from Baitui's bones. It can influence those who possess Baitui's bones to a certain extent. But even with Brother Frog and Green Eyebrow's cheeks about to explode, they couldn't blow the flute. It seems that only humans can use these artifacts. But Zhou Ping is as weak as a ghost. He just took a breath and fainted from the stimulation. At this moment, Li Changsheng's expression grew increasingly grim. Luckily, the rumbling of his stomach reminded Frog. "Right, we had Wallace for lunch." They put Li Changsheng in a strange position. Whether he can blow the whistle this time depends entirely on whether the Wallace we had at lunch was authentic. Diarrhea may be late, but it's never absent. As the whistle blew, a strange transformation occurred within the raven's domain. Stimulated by the flute's melody, the heavenly net manifested as a spectral image, easily subduing the god. As the heavenly net continued to constrict, the raven god exploded into a flurry of feathers. The number domain collapsed. Li Changsheng's soul returned to its body. A crisp cracking sound. The chicken statue offered years ago emerged from the wall, and then shattered on the floor. Li Changsheng picked up the glowing amulet from the debris. Brother Frog revealed that the object was called the Night Owl's Eye. It's known as a guiding light on the path of the dead. It cured Zhou Ping's strange illness. He left Greenbrow behind, fulfilling the old dog's last wish. Li Changsheng and Froggy chatted and laughed all the way back. They were completely unaware of what they had done, as if manipulated by an invisible hand. If you see someone with a vacant expression walking on their tiptoes, run as far away as possible, because they might have a ghost attached to them. There's a scene like this in a Lam Ching-ying movie. Does anyone remember the movie title? Tell me. Ding Peng had been depressed all day, because everything he saw was red. Unfortunately, everyone around him was just ordinary. They couldn't see the red veil covering his head. The next day, he disappeared. Someone found his shoes under the Twin School Bridge. The origin of the name Twin Schools Bridge is very simple. It's located between two schools. But the road beneath the bridge is not so simple. Legend has it that during the Republican era, this was the site of two mass graves. The road between them was the only way for ghost marriages. And at the end of the road is Twin Schools Bridge. That's why there are rumors on campus that Ding Peng was abducted for a ghost marriage. Some busybodies even posted photos on the forum. It says this was filmed at midnight. After opening it, you can vaguely see a woman wearing a phoenix coronet and cape inside. Surprise! Ashui, I can even zoom in. Thoughtful viewers have already started tagging their besties. Li Changsheng skipped class for 2 days. When he walked into the classroom again, the classmates were all so scared they hid in the corners. Because his disappearance coincided with Ding Peng's, everyone thought he had also been taken by a ghost. Later, after his close friend explained, he understood the reason. Then the bell rang. Everyone returned to their seats, but Li Changsheng saw his desk mate Ding Jiai secretly wiping away tears. It turned out the missing Ding Peng was her cousin. His family has been frantic these past few days. Looking at the delicate beauty, Li Changxing suddenly recalled a mystical tracking method his grandfather had taught him. The dashi tracking method. After class, he and his deskmate took Ding Peng's school uniform to a deserted place. Li Changxing made preparations, while asking his deskmate to unfold the uniform. Though a little shy, but in order to save her cousin, the girl still followed through. After Ding Jiai unbuttoned her cousin's school uniform, Li Changxing drew a few symbols on it. These simple symbols have great significance. Each vertical line represents a day. You just need to know the date the person went missing. Then check against the vertical lines. After reaching the end, start again from the beginning. I kept counting until the day he disappeared. If the red string stops outside the circle, it means he's gone far away. I'll need to find another method. If it stops inside the circle, I can use this method to find him. The 3 red circles represent home, frequented location, and workplace. Home represents the area centered around his house. Frequented location refers to the place the person often visits. For example, for a student, it would be the school. But the workplace is the opposite. It represents areas where the person I'm looking for doesn't frequently appear. After some maneuvering, Ding Peng's vertical line stopped at the reset position. This means he's still around the school. Then I called Lu Tong over, and took out the prepared kite. I made Ding Peng's school uniform into the kite sail. It's a shame there's no wind today. Fatty's also complaining that the kite won't fly. Li Changxing isn't panicking at all. He points a finger to the sky, and shouts, Lord of the wind, hear my command, let the strong winds blow. As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind shot out from between his fingers. Lu Tong's face was full of surprise. No way, dude, you can actually do it. Li Changxing was about to show off some more, but Brother Frog reminded him to quickly release the kite. He was running out of breath. The kite soared higher and higher, but suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck it out of the clear blue sky. They broke into a jog, and watched helplessly as the kite drifted into the archway of the twin schools bridge. Fatty, skilled and daring, ignored Li Changxing's warnings and insisted on going down to investigate. But the dark archway resembled a giant, man-eating maw. After Fatty went inside, he quickly fell silent. Li Changxing hurried after him, but the area under the bridge was completely visible to him. A living person had vanished into thin air. Froggy reminded him to try using the night owl's eye. It could see things ordinary people couldn't. He placed the night owl's eye flat against his eyes. Sure enough, he made a new discovery. The area under the bridge was actually divided into a real and an illusory part. Lu Tong and Ding Peng were both standing under the illusory archway. They didn't react to Li Changxing's shouts. A large horse appeared in front of them. Lu Tong held the reins. Ding Peng mounted the horse. Just like that, they slowly disappeared into the darkness. Li Changxing chased after them, until a palace appeared ahead. 3 large characters are written above. Yuanshan Palace. Legend says that after death, one's 3 souls automatically leave the body. One soul flies into the ancestral grave to bless future generations. Another goes to the underworld, where its deeds in life are judged before it is reincarnated. The final soul flies to Yuanshan Palace, where the primordial spirit is preserved. Based on the merits and cultivation accumulated during each person's lifetime, different houses will manifest here. Some are magnificent, while others are dilapidated. If the living want to enter this place, they must first lower the aura of the 3 flames above their heads. This is what is called Luo-in, soul descending. First, cover with a red cloth, then blindfold. Because this place is invisible to the naked eye, I can only move forward by feel. I also need to take off my shoes. My young energy will then flow from the soles of my feet into the earth. Finally, around midnight, I need to look back once. This will extinguish the 2 flames on my shoulders. At that point, only the flame above my head will remain. My young energy will be weakened to its extreme. This is also why, when someone calls your name behind you at night, you're not supposed to turn around. Everything is ready. Li Changxing enters the bridge tunnel. What comes into view is a long corridor. On both sides are written all the taboos of the Yuanshan Palace. The 2 underachievers obviously don't have such strong memories. Moreover, they can only stay here for half a day. After a quick glance, I followed Lu Tong and Ding Peng's trail. But this place was simply too vast. On foot, we clearly couldn't catch up to them on horseback. Fortunately, protagonist privilege kicked in. We stumbled upon a ghostly 4S dealership. Buying a car here was incredibly convenient. You just had to open the catalog, choose a car, and pull out its picture. Most importantly, it's free. Li Changxing was overjoyed when he heard this. But he tried for a long time, let alone a car. He couldn't even get a carriage. In the end, he struggled immensely to tear off a picture of a flying pigeon bicycle. After he got the picture, it spontaneously combusted. Then a brand new flying pigeon bicycle appeared before his eyes. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. He doesn't know this shop actually charges lifespan, either in show or yang show. With the tools, the journey is much faster. They didn't stop until they passed by Guizai Ridge. There was an introduction on the wall earlier. All children who die with resentment enter Guizai Ridge. Living souls must not be disturbed. Fortunately, Li Changxing isn't stupid. Seeing the stone statue standing at the entrance, he got out of the car to investigate. I sense a living soul approaching. A drop of water condenses on the plaque at the entrance, the one bearing the image of Duma Yuanjun. It falls directly onto the statue below. Several lines of text materialize on it. It says the ghost children inside are consuming their offerings. We need to wait half an hour before entering. This place is mostly filled with the children who died as sacrifices to the river god. Ghost Child Ridge is where their resentment is appeased. Seeing their pitiful state and the warning statue at the entrance, Li Changxing could only wait. But in reality, in less than half an hour, most of the ghost children had finished their offerings. The statue indicated that although he could pass through now, he couldn't make any noise. Worried about his friend's safety, Li Changxing pushed his bicycle and entered Ghost Child Ridge early. The ghost children were now full and satisfied. He temporarily forgot the resentment in his heart. Li Changxing's attention was also drawn away. 1,000 roads there may be, but safety comes first. Li Changxing, not watching where he was going, walked straight into a ghost child. Fortunately, the 3 stone statues descended before the ghost child could get angry, suppressing the ghost that was about to go berserk. Both the man and the frog were scared out of their wits. They reminded each other to keep their eyes on the road, but fate seemed determined to test them. A mosquito slowly landed on the bicycle bell. I'm on the frog's side on this one. It's pure biological instinct. He can't help it. He's a frog, after all. Countless ghosts were awakened by the ringing. The frog said shakily, "Don't touch the ghost children. Touch them and you'll turn to ash." Watching them close in step by step, many stone statues landed in front of Li Changxing, blocking the ghost children for him. But this time, there were too many ghosts. The stone statues began to crumble to dust. It looked like they wouldn't last much longer. Li Changxing got on his flying pigeon bicycle, and charged toward the small black stream without hesitation. But as soon as the tires touched the water, they began to melt and lose their shape. Brother Frog then recognized the stream as Xian Shui, capable of dissolving all things. It was said to be a tributary of the earth's blood. Fortunately, Brother Frog was a water elemental being, so they both escaped the ghost children's pursuit. Not only that, but Li Changxing also thought of the longevity root his grandfather left him. He remembered the mysterious person outside the wall telling him the longevity root couldn't be watered with ordinary water. He told Froggy to quickly hoard some mystic water, to see if it could revive the longevity root, and help him escape this calamity. Li Changxing arrived in front of a villa called Bishao Palace, and peeked inside through the door. He was numb with fear. It looked like his friend had been made into a human pillar and stuffed into a jar. Ghost marriage is an extremely cruel feudal ritual from ancient times. If the bride is alive, she will be sealed in a coffin to die slowly. If the groom is alive, he will be sealed in a jar. The living and the dead will share the lifespan of the deceased. In short, it's a way to absorb other people's lifespans. This method is extremely evil. Li Changxing naturally couldn't stand by and watch his classmates suffer like this. But the guards at the door stopped him, so he raised his hand to Toad. The toad's mouth was pointed directly at the guard's forehead. The guy next to him wasn't going to put up with it. He saw him showing off with a golden toad in his hand. He grabbed him by the throat. Brother Frog hurriedly sprayed the mystic water he had stored. This substance is extremely effective against wraiths. Then, he charged into the venue, wielding the golden desert eagle. The guests all stared. At this moment, the head butler of Bishia Palace appeared. He demanded to know why Li Changxing was causing trouble. Li Changxing didn't want to waste his breath on him. I turned the gun on the butler, threatening to shoot if he didn't release them. The butler remained indifferent, claiming it was a trap set by his master, and that he couldn't open it. I didn't believe him. But after trying, I found he was telling the truth. Brute force wouldn't save them. Even when Brother Frog spit out the mystic water, the bottle showed no reaction. Suddenly, the young man next to him acted dishonorably, knocking his hand away with a sneak attack. Disarmed, he was pinned to the ground. Brother Frog was also seized by the housekeeper and trapped in the bottle. In the end, the 3 men and the frog were all trapped inside the bottle, awaiting the arrival of the master of this place to drain their life force. But don't forget, his grandfather, Li Yulong, is still residing in the fire-swallowing toad tattooed on his back. The tattoo suddenly spewed a burst of flame, shooting straight towards Li Changxing's right arm. 2 ghostly figures within the soul-locking chain shrieked in agony. Damn it, he's using toad fire on us again. This soul-locking chain is a sacred tool specifically for imprisoning souls. The bottle couldn't resist and began to crack. Li Changxing broke out of the bottle. He also activated the second ability of the soul-locking chain, soul-locking bind. At this point, he could freely control this sacred object. He released Frog Brother first, then released the chain to save the 2 classmates. The mission was finally completed. A few small fry tried to fight him, but they were all repelled by the soul-locking chains on his arms. The butler tried to intimidate Li Changsheng by invoking the name of this place's owner, but before he could speak, Li Changsheng wrapped the soul-locking chains around a pillar beneath the roof beam, preparing to tear down the palace. Seeing the building begin to shake, everyone rushed outside. So young and reckless. A disagreement leads to a dead end. Houses are extremely important in the Yuanshan Palace. He could have easily saved his friend with his extraordinary ability, but he went too far. He also made a powerful enemy for himself in the future. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly saw a familiar face among the beggars passing by. He unexpectedly saw his grandmother inside the Yuanshan Palace. They embraced and wept. His grandmother was especially heartbroken. She thought Li Changsheng was also dead. Li Changsheng hurriedly explained the purpose of his trip to her, but she slapped him hard without a word. Reckless. Do you know how dangerous this is? Get out. Get out, now. Li Changsheng fought back tears, unwilling to leave. He had finally made it here. He still wanted to see his parents, but his grandmother explained that his parents had also gone begging. Li Changsheng didn't understand why his family had to live so miserably in this place. The old woman explained to him. Their well-being depended entirely on Li's family and his fortune. They originally had a thatched hut, but since they all perished without a trace, they couldn't return home. They could only beg and wander. The death of his family troubled Li Changsheng for a long time. Seeing this opportunity, he couldn't hold back any longer, and asked his grandmother about the situation. It all started on the night of the Ghost Festival. 5 mysterious figures surrounded the Li family's old house. They performed Taoist rituals, setting up a powerful demon-quelling formation. At the time, only Grandma was home. Their leader demanded to know the whereabouts of the sacred book. Despite being tortured, Grandma refused to speak. Seeing the old woman's stubbornness, he then used the blood of their closest kin as a guide, carving a soul-summoning spell, forcibly summoning the souls of Li Changsheng's parents before him. Another person took out 2 pills. Those who swallow this pill will experience excruciating pain as their flesh is ripped from their bones. Faced with this threat, Grandma still refused to speak a word. The old man opposite her lost his patience, and forced the pills into the mouths of the parents. Their agonizing cries echoed in Grandma's ears. A mother and her child share one heart. There's no need to elaborate on her pain at this moment. Seeing that they couldn't get the grandmother to talk, the elder at the front signaled to his companions. It seems the evil book is still on Li Yulong. Let's not waste any more time. Burn them. Just as they were about to act, my seemingly emotionless grandma suddenly burst into tears. Old man, you're finally back. Next up, the second strongest character in this show appears. Why second? Because in the next episode, you'll witness the ultimate powerhouse. Follow me so you don't miss out. These so-called righteous sects cruelly attacked an old woman for a wicked book. Not only that, but they also summoned the souls of her children and tortured them in front of her. They claim to be ridding the world of evil, but they just want to steal the copper coin curse book. Fortunately, old man Li Yulong arrived just in time. He made a hand gesture and chanted an incantation. Those who enter my house, everyone, to your positions. Dragon fire coins. Twin dragons explore the sea. 2 copper coin talismans then slid out from his sleeves. He flicked his fingers lightly. The 2 copper coins landed, and began to spin rapidly. Under Li Yulong's control, the copper coin began to glow. Then, 2 dragon-shaped flames shot out from the coin's hole. The 2 dragon shadows moved unhindered, destroying the grand formation they had previously laid. Then, they turned their heads, and charged toward the 5 concealed enemies. Facing this aggressive countermagic, they hurriedly channeled their magic power to defend themselves. A stalemate. The leader spat and said, "That Fuchin sect is truly garbage. I can't believe Sun Si couldn't even handle a mere scholar." Li Yulong finally understood. So Yufeng clan people conspired to ambush my grandson. Grandma, who was standing nearby, overheard their conversation, and angrily demanded, "Why are you persecuting our Li family?" The leader declared righteously that the cursed book endangered all beings under heaven. Everything we do is for the common people. Who have we harmed? You, or your family? There's a demon in the book. It will erode one's mind, and lead them down the path of evil. It can only be suppressed by righteous people like us. Grandma scoffed. So, righteous people secretly attack a defenseless woman on a rainy night? Li Yulong couldn't bear to listen anymore. He shuddered, revealing the coin armor underneath. Several coins flew off his clothes, and landed neatly on his outstretched arms. I am the 9th son of the dragon. I devour but never disgorge, blessed by heaven and earth. I consume gold, silver, and treasures as my food. Mystical Tao and wind rest within my belly. 1 horn, Jianlu. 2 horns, Bixie. The art of suppression and stabilization. Fiery-eyed Pishio. Li Yulong transforms into a divine beast. A palm slams against the barrier. The 5 can no longer resist. They all reveal themselves. So it's the 5 Taoist priests of the 5 Paths sect. You burn, kill, and loot the magical artifacts and treasures of other sects. And you dare to call yourselves righteous. Their identities exposed. They fly into a rage. One person holds a lightning talisman. Another casts a beast-trapping spell. Li Yulong, transformed into a Pishio, is first bound by several golden chains, then pinned to the ground by a celestial being summoned by lightning magic. At this moment, he is completely unable to fight back. However, Grandma, standing to the side, chuckles. Ever since I followed the old man, I've never seen anyone snatch anything from him. Not even those who call themselves Taoist patriarchs. It's no use. Just as he finished speaking, the Pishio suddenly broke free, and charged towards them. Luo One Image. Mystic Light. The Pishio appears, shaking the 8 directions. Li Yulong unleashes his ultimate skill, the 7-star Pishio formation. The biggest difference between aversion magic and Taoism is that formations are static, but aversion magic is dynamic. Moreover, it is now the end of Dharma, and with their level of cultivation, they likely won't be able to escape this great formation. One of the Taoists sensed the power of this technique, and began to negotiate. He said if I handed over the witchcraft manual, they would release Li Yulong's family. But my grandma behind me interrupted. It's a pity, she said, even if I die, the book cannot be handed over. Looking at their confused faces, Li Yulong slowly said, this is a secret, but those about to die aren't qualified to hear it. Having said that, he suddenly opened his mouth, and swallowed them. But looking up again, he saw another one still alive behind his wife. There's a golden figure between his eyebrows. Li Yulong's face paled. He stared at the golden figure and slowly said, 3 transformations of the death god, golden flower of the great void. But you don't have the aura of the 3 transformations, only the golden flower of the great void. The old man burst out laughing. This golden bean at the center of my brow isn't from cultivation, but by borrowing the reforging power of your book, I can step into the 3rd level of the death god realm. Having said that, he pointed a single finger towards the sky. A golden light suddenly appeared in the sky. A golden sword flew out from the clouds, and shot straight towards Li Yulong. The Taoist continuously channeled the golden bean at the center of his brow. Although he doesn't have the full power of the fallen god 3rd transformation at this moment, Li Yulong was still defeated. The elder spoke calmly. I suppose I'm qualified to know this secret now, right? From an angle the other person couldn't see, a faint smile appeared at the corner of Li Yulong's mouth. Since you insist on making me speak, let's see how tough your life is. I studied under Wen Mulan. He foresaw a great tribulation in my destiny. He specifically passed down the Yenching book to me, hoping to use the book's malevolent energy to counter the tribulation. One night, 30 years later, my grandson was born. At the same time, a star fell into my courtyard, and transformed into a seedling, breaking through the earth. That sprout grew rapidly, and the characters for eternal life faintly appeared on its neck. Hearing this, the old Taoist couldn't help but interrupt. That's the root of eternal life. Quick, continue. The sprout grew larger and larger. Not only are countless treasures born with it, but immortal cranes circle in the sky above it. Quickly, it transforms into a towering tree, and figures begin to materialize on its trunk. There are 4 of them. One rides on a banana leaf, one stands on a broom, one leans on a crutch, and another one riding a golden. The old Taoist's face was full of disbelief. He squeezed 4 words out through gritted teeth. 4 fairies offering longevity. Where's the tree? They cut it down. Who are they? Tell me. A clap of thunder. The courtyard gate slowly opens. The person on the right slowly speaks. Li Yulong, I warned you. Those who reveal heavenly secrets die. Legend says 4 immortals once walked on water to the South Pole Immortals' birthday celebration. Among them were the familiar Iron Crutch Li and money-scattering Lu Hai. The 4 people before me were dressed exactly like the legendary 4 immortals. Their appearance at this critical juncture naturally drew the old Taoist's displeasure. One of them stepped forward and began to recite a poem. This place holds mysteries profound. A chance for immortality is found. Let others and not pry with curious mind. For those who know, a violent end they'll find. Seeing they weren't speaking plainly, the old Taoist, I immediately attacked them with my flying sword. One of them easily blocked my nascent soul level 3 flying sword with his cane. I was very surprised. I just defeated the legendary book bearer with one move. But now a broken cane stopped me. Similarly, the man with the cane was also a little surprised. Oh, not bad. Your sword tip actually touched my staff. The old Taoist seemed provoked by these words. He channeled all his power into the flying sword. But in the face of absolute power, all efforts are futile. The flying sword of the death god's 3rd transformation was shattered by a broken staff. No wonder the Taoist arts are declining in this world. All of this is caused by people like you who neglect their Taoist practices. Is this how someone with 3 transformations cultivates? But the old Taoist didn't listen to a word. He was still immersed in the shock of his flying sword being destroyed. He stared at the cane for a long time. He seemed to have figured out the newcomer's identity. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by someone opposite him, along with that fire-extinguishing gesture. The old Taoist's facial features seemed to be under some kind of pressure, continuously caving inwards. His words held power. Terrifying. Even the golden 3-inch talisman between his eyebrows couldn't withstand the pressure. It pierced through his forehead and he was sent flying into the courtyard wall. The old Taoist, who had just been dominating the fight, couldn't even withstand a single blow. To be precise, he'll be terrified just by them talking. They've dealt with the eyesore. The man on the right said to Li Yulong, "It was fate that the Chongqing Bureau fell into your family's hands. We only chopped down the tree and spared your life. But you shouldn't have deliberately leaked the secrets of heaven. This time, no one can save you." Li Yulong's little scheme was exposed. My face remained expressionless. I simply indicated that I understood. One of them seemed puzzled. "With your strength, even without luring us out, you should have been able to handle that incomplete third cycle wraith." I could have, but to save my grandson, I split off a part of my soul. With only part of my soul, I can't use the Great Abomination curse. The 4 mysterious figures then fell silent. One of them picked up a broom and swept lightly a few times. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Li Yulong's body vanished along with them. When Sun Si arrived at the Li residence, he witnessed Li Yulong's demise. He took out the amulet, set up the death curse and the ill omen trap, taking out his anger on his family. The old lady watches as the door automatically closes, unaware that she has already fallen into the trap. Suddenly, 2 female ghosts materialize. Ning walks toward the old lady with a smile, but Shui also lets out a satisfied laugh. All the foreshadowing makes sense now. After listening to Grandma's story, Li Chongqing understood the whole story, but he quickly realized that now he also knew this secret. Wouldn't he be silenced by those 4 mysterious people after leaving? Grandma comforted him and told him not to worry. This longevity game was started by you after all, so you can understand. Then urged Li Chongqing to leave quickly. As long as he does well outside, his family can also enjoy the afterglow here. Successfully rescued his classmate. Li Chongqing has helped others solve a problem, but he himself can't clean up his own mess. Because of the green fish sword hilt incident, the owner of the Deep Blue Internet Cafe hired a bunch of thugs to find him. He had just gotten out of school, when he was cornered by Big Piao and Little Piao of the 13 Protectors. These 2 were known for being crazy. After all, no one wants to mess with 2 guys who aren't right in the head. The brothers were born with a strange illness. They get splitting headaches whenever they see nail-shaped objects. Because of this strange illness, their heads also developed abnormally. From a distance, it looked as if a nail had pierced through both of their heads. Due to a congenital brain disorder, the brothers were abandoned in a pile of broken straw bundles. The older brother, who was a year older, took care of his younger sibling. When they were thirsty, they would drink from the nearby stream. When they were hungry, they would go door to door asking for food. If they couldn't get anything, they would scavenge in the garbage. Winter was the hardest time. The older brother could only try his best to shield his little brother with his frail body. A man with bad intentions approached them. "Hey, dummy. I want a new window for my shop on South Street. Go smash it for me." Watching his younger brother devour the roasted sweet potato, the older brother picked up a stone and walked towards the shop the man mentioned. The shopkeeper, the one who's been cursing, is the district. He has no way to deal with this fool. Then the villain brought over a box of exquisite food. "My house is too cold. Help me start a fire." Shui's elder once said, "You can bully anyone, but you can't bully a fool. It's the most harmful to one's moral integrity." Just like that, the 2 brothers grew up. Their minds were sometimes clear, sometimes muddled. When they were muddled, they had no idea whether what they were doing was right or wrong. Perhaps there was no right or wrong. Ultimately, it was all just about survival. Today, these 2 were originally planning to bully Li Chongqing, but Froggy's transforming air sac blocked their attack, and they inadvertently triggered the nail-studded clothing special effect. This caused the 2 brothers to start having headaches again, but after hearing their story, Li Chongqing was moved by sympathy. He felt that the brothers' symptoms were very similar to a type of curse. This curse is called nailing the head and tail. First, a coffin 1 foot wide must be cut into 2 halves. Then, it must be buried on both sides of the ancestral grave of the cursed person. This will cause their descendants to have deformed minds. The deadliest thing is that every time someone afflicted with the curse of disgust has a headache, it attracts hungry ghosts at night, devouring their life force. Li Chongqing observed through his night owl eyes that the 2 brothers' life force was already extremely weak. "I'm afraid they won't make it through the night." Hearing this, the older brother hurriedly knelt down. "I'm not afraid of death, but please, master, save my younger brother. I promise he won't do any more evil." After watching for so long, Ashui figured out how to break this curse. So he appeared and told his brother that he just needed to destroy the nail in their ancestral grave to break the curse. But it turns out the 2 brothers were abandoned as children and have no idea where their ancestral grave is. During their conversation, Li Chongqing learned, every time the brothers have a headache, 2 figures, one tall and one short, would appear with their backs to them at night. The closer they got, the darker it became, until everything went black, and the brothers would pass out. Li Chongqing had already learned that it was the ghost causing the trouble. Secretly, he began asking the soul-locking chain for information about this kind of spirit. When the ghost spirit heard it was about you, I could kill 800 of these little brats with one swing of my chain. But before Li Changsheng could even laugh, the ghost continued to explain. Too bad you can't use it anymore. The last time you used your lightning power at Yuanshan Palace, it consumed what little lifespan you had left. As soon as you die, we will be able to break the seal and regain our freedom. Brother Frog immediately poured a bucket of cold water. The fire sealing you is Lu Hai's Dao fire. Once Changsheng dies, this Dao fire will go out of control. Then you're finished. The two ghost spirits immediately changed their faces. Young brother Changsheng, don't waste your lifespan any further. Without using chains, the two of us can pin down you with our long tongues. How to kill him is up to you. Cursing techniques are different from Taoist magic. At his level, it's still quite difficult to kill you. After thinking it over, I can only ask for outside help. The Golden Toad Temple has messengers in every region. If I want to send a message to my fellow disciples, I can only ask for their help. Brother Frog negotiated a reward with the bully Golden Toad after some haggling. If only he had asked for 2 more toad nails. None of them could perform the gesture. Until dusk, Li Changsheng's destined senior sister finally arrived. She was efficient and decisive. The bully Jean had already informed her of the situation. She brought 2 sacred objects, the Drought Dragon's Foot and the Ghost-Devouring Tiger, both treasures for slaying monsters. Li Changsheng was overjoyed. My senior sister is amazing. Thank you so much, senior sister. You're welcome. 2 talismans, 100,000 total. Human body, pig head, called Tianpeng. 2-headed body, called Pingpeng. Anyone reincarnated as a pig 7 times. And if it's beheaded 7 times for sacrificial purposes, there's a chance it'll mutate into a ping pong. This type of ghost has a lot of resentment in its head, which can affect the judgment of surrounding things. It has a built-in dodge buff. Li Changsheng, at the cost of relieving stress by fighting, called in his senior sister for help. And tonight, they're dealing with this special kind of ghost. Pavilion. They watched as the ghostly figure appeared in the dense forest not far away, but in the blink of an eye, it vanished. Suddenly, an unusual noise came from behind the 2 people who were spying from the tree. The sparse moonlight that had been shining faded completely. The 2 of them were plunged into utter darkness. Just as they turned on their lights, they quickly turned around, but behind them, it was empty. Yet, when they looked back, a pig-headed monster had already taken position. Li Changsheng shuddered in fear. He hurriedly called on the 2 brothers in his soul-locking chain to get to work. Then, he took out a talisman. He smeared his own blood on it. He slammed it down on the monster's head. The monster was clearly restrained and unable to move. But it was his senior sister who got hit. Li Changsheng thought it was his fault. So he raised the magical tool again and slammed it down towards the monster. Unfortunately, it was still his senior sister who got hurt. She couldn't help but yell angrily, "Why do you keep hitting my face?" Before he could explain, another whimper came from behind the monster. The 2 figures gradually merged into one with eyes open, the other with eyes closed. Just as the form stabilized, they switched the order of their closed eyes. An immense malevolent aura emanated from them. In an instant, they broke free from the chains. The monster roared and lunged at them. The ghost within the soul-locking chain quickly warned them. This creature is called a pingpeng. It possesses the ability to distort surrounding perceptions. But pingpengs don't prey on their own kind. We can try to fool it by pretending to be one. This method proved effective. The initially frenzied pingpeng suddenly calmed down. After sniffing them both, it turned and walked towards the brothers' shack. The 2 still wanted to use their talismans against Ping-Pong, but the soul-locking chain warned them. Ping-Pong can distort attacks directed at him. No matter how powerful your talismans are, they're useless if they can't hit him. But there is a very simple method. Draw a circle around Ping-Pong's feet and chant a spell, and we can destroy him. They immediately got to work, rushing to Ping-Pong's feet. Each took charge of half the circle, but the monster's inherent power was too abnormal, and the circle they drew ended up as 2 wavy lines. Guiling explained, that's because while you were drawing the circle, you were thinking about destroying Ping Pong. It will also be affected by the supernatural power. At this time, the screen barrier has begun to absorb the brothers' life force. Li Changsheng could only bite the bullet and continue trying to draw the circle. Just as he was about to act, a few slices of raw fish floated out of his pocket. The fish spirits have the ability to enter dreams. They have a way to help Li Changsheng. Then the fish spirits transformed into blue smoke and entered the brothers' foreheads. They dreamt they were buying jianbing. But the vendor was being stingy with the sauce. My brother snatched the brush. Half a circle of chili sauce first, then half a circle of sweet bean sauce. Dreams are reflections of reality. Like when you dream you desperately need to pee, and finally find a toilet in your dream. But I woke up to find the sheets were wet. Guided by the spirit, Li Changsheng chanted the incantation. With a pang sound, the monster vanished into thin air. The brothers were still lamenting that they hadn't even had a bite of the egg pancakes they just bought. After the monster dissipated, it left behind a peculiar item. A talking kidney. Ashui is already drooling. Because this thing can absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and increase one's lifespan. Li Changsheng's depleted lifespan was thus replenished. Don't throw away any wild pig kidneys you find in the future. Coat them in breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs next door are crying from craving them. Having settled the two brothers' affairs, Li Changxing returned to his ancestral home. Based on what Grandma told me, I dug up Grandpa's coin armor underground. Then, I turned my attention to the courtyard wall. If I remember correctly, there's another treasure hidden there. Sure enough, that old Taoist's 3-inch golden blade is still here. Back then, he was able to defeat Grandpa, who had split off a piece of his soul, with just this. Now, with the copper coin and the hexing book in hand, Li Changxing felt for the first time how reassuring it is to have strength. Of course, he also wouldn't forget to water the Changxing root with the Xian water. The interaction between the two created a huge reaction. A blazing fire erupted. The firelight emitted by the burning Changxing root lit up half the sky. Words drifted through the sky. The Changxing formation opened, and the Changxing root appeared. The flowers bloom and the fire trees greet the spring again, waiting for the four immortals to bow to the god of longevity. The immortals wish longevity to the heavens and earth. Li Changxing finishes reading the inscription. The cloud swells and disappears with a puff. It transforms into nourishment to nourish the root of longevity. The root of longevity, which had originally withered, sprouts a new bud. The branch slowly grows. Finally, a jujube grew at the very end. Brother Frog recognized it as the legendary fire jujube, an immortal fruit that extends one's lifespan upon consumption. Unfortunately, only those with cultivation can eat it. Ordinary people would explode and die if they ate it. In this age of Dharma decline, immortal fruits that increase lifespan can be considered supreme treasures. At this moment, two uninvited guests had already arrived at the door. The baby, still in the state of a strong infant, can drive away demons and monsters with just his cries. But this also consumes the celestial spirit energy within him. This causes the premature arrival of his 5 declines as an immortal. In the age of lawlessness, even immortals and demons have a limited lifespan. They will reincarnate, hoping to live another life. This baby was born with an old man protecting him on his path. The old man wears white clothes, has white hair, and 6 teeth in his mouth. He strongly resembles the 6-tusked elephant under the Bodhisattva Samantapatra's seat. The infant's identity is becoming clear. It's highly likely he's the reincarnation of Puxian Bodhisattva. Just now, he saved Li Changxing, who was possessed by a demon, returning a favor for a favor. He took out a date pit and used the flesh to suppress the 5 decays of immortality within the baby. There's a saying in northeast China, if a child doesn't have a name by nightfall, it will attract evil spirits. Li Changxing, thinking the baby was abandoned, decided to name him Shirda, meaning picked up. While registering the child at the hospital, he ran into a nurse he knew. After explaining the situation, the nurse agreed to teach him how to care for the baby after her shift. On his way back, he encountered the most mysterious beggar in the show. The beggar immediately recognized the baby's innate Buddha-like features, a life free of illness and calamity, turning misfortune into blessings. But his spiritual roots are still unformed, and tonight is a night of the waning moon. I fear it may attract evil spirits. Remind him to make preparations early. Li Changxing, adhering to the principle of heeding advice to avoid trouble, sealed the well in his courtyard and placed several copper coins around it as soon as he returned home. Because whenever there's a lunar eclipse, the deep well connects the world of the living and the dead. If any evil spirits come tonight, they'll come out of the well. This piqued the young nurse's curiosity, so she decided to stay with him that night. Don't underestimate the floral quilt they're wearing. It's commonly known as a sky-covering quilt. Once they're under it, ordinary ghosts can't find you. That's why there's a reason people like to hide under the covers when they're scared. Years ago, there was a folk custom in northeast China. Whenever there was a lunar eclipse, mothers with young children would take a copper coin to the well. They would grind the coin on a stone platform, while chanting a lunar eclipse curse. They had to grind the coin into a square before the eclipse ended. Only then can the mothers will be infused into the coin. Finally, it is worn with a red thread around the baby's neck. This will bring good fortune and ward off misfortune. It will bless the child with a smooth journey ahead. But Li Changxing knew he was not the mother of Xiao Shirda, so the copper coin he made might lack enough willpower. As the saying goes, if the quality is insufficient, let the quantity make up for it. So he specifically prepared 7 copper coins. While waiting for the lunar eclipse, Li Changxing and Brother Frog discussed Xiao Shirda's origins. He is very likely one of the 4 immortals of longevity. Xiao Shirda's immortal roots are extremely weak. This is likely related to the severing of the longevity root. Furthermore, he didn't come earlier or later, but appeared right after Li Changxing revived the longevity root. All of this suggests a connection between the longevity root and the 4 immortals. Before the two could think further, a wolf howl echoed from afar. The lunar eclipse had begun. Li Changxing quickly ran to the well and started polishing a copper coin. Suddenly, the well cover was pushed up, creating a gap from beneath. A woman, wearing earrings, and with a pale complexion, peeked out from inside. Li Changxing jumped in shock. He quickly threw the polished copper coins at the woman. He still didn't feel safe. He whipped out the soul-locking chain to seal the well, but the female monster struggled fiercely. He feared the soul-locking chain wouldn't hold for long. Fortunately, he had been prepared. He took out his tools and polished the remaining copper coins. He finished polishing the remaining copper coins just before the lunar eclipse ended. He placed the copper coins imbued with his wish power on the well cover. The ghost underneath instantly fell silent. But before he could breathe a sigh of relief, the nearby hand-operated pump started shaking again. It was then he remembered that the two were connected underneath. Unfortunately, it was too late. The ghost had already emerged, following the flow of water. As the saying goes, a crying child, a fussing child. The well mother comes at midnight. She doesn't seek wealth, doesn't ask for directions. She won't leave until she's eaten 500 souls. As soon as the female ghost appeared, she wailed loudly. Where's my child? Why is no one coming to save my child? Since my child is gone, and don't think you'll get off easy, I must devour 500 children. The terrifying female ghost closed in step by step. But at this moment, Li Changqing couldn't activate the soul-locking chain within him. He could only fight with all his might. He immediately lifted the nearby floral quilt and hid underneath. This method was quite effective. The female ghost stopped bothering him. I turned to go back inside and look for the baby. Little Shirta inside seemed to sense the danger, and started wailing. The young nurse wanted to call Li Changqing in. But when she looked up, the female ghost was already pressed against the glass, staring at little Shirta and laughing maniacally. At this critical moment, Li Changqing summoned his chains and bound the ghost. He realized that as long as he wasn't too close to the ghost, his soul-locking chains wouldn't be suppressed. Seeing this opportunity, Brother Frog hurriedly spat out the lunar eclipse money, which landed on the ghost woman's head. In no time, it was melted into a pool of stagnant water. The young nurse thought the ghost woman had been dealt with, so she picked up little Shirta and headed outside. But the underground water flow reignited and surged towards the two of them. The young nurse had no way to stop it. She could only watch helplessly as the water spread towards her. She's now possessed by the female ghost, and is about to attack the delicious-smelling Shirta. The white elephant protects its master. The six-tusked elder appears and saves little Shirta. Seeing help arrive, the female ghost transforms back into her fierce ghost form, and begins to absorb the power of the lunar eclipse. Li Changqing and the others are too late to stop her. I could only watch her worship the moon. Wait for her to absorb enough power. A malevolent aura began to radiate from between her eyebrows. The night of the lunar eclipse is this female ghost's domain. They all fell into hallucinations, pulled into the ghost mother's realm. Ginseng can't be dropped on the ground easily. It's not like the rumors say, that it'll disappear without a trace as soon as it touches the ground, but because once it touches the earth, it will lose its vital essence. Of course, tying it with red string isn't because ginseng will take root, but to avoid damaging its fragile roots. Ginseng diggers often yell "bang chui" when they find one. They believe these two words will startle the ginseng and prevent it from running away. This team of ginseng diggers returned with a full harvest. They had toiled in the mountains for half a year. I finally closed this big deal. They came across a child under a pear tree. The older man explained that he couldn't put the ginseng he was carrying on the ground. He asked the child to climb the tree and pick a few pears to quench their thirst. Every child raised in the countryside knows how to climb trees, except for Ashui. The child was eager to help. He quickly climbed up. Seeing his agility, the ginseng diggers under the tree cheered. Lost in the praise, the boy became overconfident. The man successfully caught the pear. The others urged the boy to pick a few more to quench their thirst. Suddenly, disaster struck. The branch beneath the boy's feet snapped. Fortunately, there was a well below. There were adults all around, and if rescued in time, his life wouldn't be in danger. But the ginseng diggers just stood around the well, watching. Not one of them was willing to put down their packs to help. Then the child's mother arrived. She lay at the well's opening, desperately calling out her son's name. The child was still responding. He cried, saying he was cold and scared. My mother wanted to borrow their rope, but they heartlessly refused. No, no way. If the rope is untied, the ginseng will fall apart. Once the ginseng touches the ground, it becomes worthless. My mother asked everyone for help. One of them took pity on her, and considered untying the rope for her, but their leader stopped them. He declared that no one was to untie the ropes. He said the client for this order was powerful and ruthless. If the number of people didn't match, this 500-person ginseng collecting team wouldn't meet a good end. Although some felt compassion, under the leader's intimidation, they all turned and left. Seeing everyone leaving, the mother knelt on the ground, pleading desperately. There are some rare medicinal herbs in here. I'll give them all to you. Please, I beg you. Someone, please save my child. But no one turned back. The mother completely despaired. She returned to the well again. But this time, no matter how she cried out, there was no response from below. Mother cried her heart out. Tuzi, don't be afraid. I'm coming to be with you. As for these people, I will make them pay. Then she grabbed the red cloth beside her and draped it over herself. Draped in red, her rage was unending. After death, I'll become a vengeful ghost, blood will flow. Only then did the ginseng diggers begin to panic. They all tried to persuade the woman not to do anything rash. Some even told her to have another child, that there was no need to die. The woman glared at them fiercely. I will become a vengeful ghost and kill you all. I will devour each and every one of your 500 children." Having said that, she resolutely jumped into the well. The ginseng diggers looked at each other in dismay. They hadn't expected her to actually be so determined to die. Retribution came swiftly. Everyone's ropes snapped one after another. The ginseng, their livelihood, scattered across the ground. Someone cried out. It must be the mother and son's vengeful spirits causing trouble. The leader needs to step up and take charge. Save the ginseng first. It's not even dark yet. What ghosts are there to be afraid of? I've traveled all over for so many years. What haven't I seen? Don't panic. What happened to the ginseng today stays buried. If the boss finds out, none of us will survive. Later, he quietly called his son over, and told him that no matter what happened, he must guard the king ginseng he was carrying. The weather changed in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the rain started pouring down. Everyone rushed to find shelter under the trees. A clap of thunder echoed. A tree branch fell silently, impaling the young man who had hidden the ginseng king. From his hat, a rather haphazardly tied, ginseng king sprang out. Before he could shout "Bangshui!" Ginseng! It jumped into the well. This ginseng king was of vital importance, so the leader had to be lowered into the well with a red rope to retrieve it. After a while, the people on the shore noticed the rope tugged 3 times. This was their prearranged signal. They thought their leader must have retrieved the ginseng king. They started pulling the rope back up, but the first thing to emerge wasn't their leader, but a long-haired woman. Long black hair continued to pour out of the well. They quickly surrounded the 500-man ginseng collecting team. In the end, not a single one was left. Li Changsheng and the others were pulled into the ghost mother's realm. Everything in the illusion felt like a personal experience. The woman looked tenderly at the baby, now only bones, in her arms. "My child, Mother ate a Buddha's reincarnation today. 1 is worth 100 babies. Mother has finally gathered 500 babies. You're finally being revived." Countless golden rays of light began converging on the skeleton. It actually transformed into a child of flesh and blood. The ghost mother saw her child again. Her heart swelled with indescribable excitement. But what the child said sent tidal waves crashing through her heart. "Mother, here's a pair for you. I picked these for you myself." Seeing his mother's surprise, he continued to explain. "Mother, have you forgotten? I fell into the well trying to pick pears for you." "Mother, stop lying to yourself. There was no ginseng gathering team. From beginning to end, there were only 3 people that year, and I was already dead when I was pulled out." The ghost mother's memories started to become confused. He slowly recalled everything, and it was indeed as the child had said. That old man passing by all those years ago had taught him the 500 infants method. He said it could revive his child, but none of that mattered anymore. Now his child was alive again. Death is like a lamp going out. Do you really think your child can come back to life? Li Changsheng has his grandfather's soul protecting him. He woke up the moment he was pulled into the illusion. With his grandfather's Taoist realm, he covered the ghost mother's domain. This allowed him to alter the illusion to some extent. A single body can only carry 1 soul. Have you ever considered the consequences of gathering 500 souls together? As soon as the words were spoken, faces began to appear on the child's body. The ghost mother frantically tried to drive the souls away. She wanted to expel them from the child, but after they were gone, the child turned back into dry bones. Everything just now was merely a final flicker of life. The ghost mother knelt on the ground, wailing in anguish. Why is this happening? Was I wrong from the very beginning? Li Changsheng created a group of illusions, and loudly questioned the ghost mother. To resurrect your own child, you ate their children. As a mother yourself, do you know how desperate they were? These words broke down her last line of defense. Even though these phantom figures were so fragile I could blow them away with a single breath, she let them attack her. Seeing this, Li Changsheng broke the illusion. The resentment had left the ghost mother. She transformed into an ordinary wandering soul. From ancient times to the present, a mother's love is the greatest. Touched, Li Changsheng took out a date pit and saved the child, although he couldn't bring him back to life. But it's good that his soul won't scatter completely. He can be reincarnated. However, the ghost mother cannot be saved. He harmed too many innocent little lives. Without the protection of the lunar eclipse power, he was instantly destroyed by the copper coin empowered with thought force. When all the dust settled, only the ghost mother earring on her ear remained. The next morning, Li Changsheng and the young nurse woke up to find Xiao Shida missing. They were surprised to discover the baby, who was still swaddled yesterday, was now able to crawl. Xiao Shida had crawled out to the courtyard to play. At the base of the wall, the jiagulan plant had somehow borne another jujube fruit. Xiao Shida gently touched it. The fire jujube's 2 leaves closed automatically. The aura of the elixir slowly dissipated. A rich young lady dreamt of a red snake visiting her in her dream. It told her that if she rebuilt its temple, it would ensure her lifelong safety. It originally had a snake god temple, and was worshipped daily by the surrounding villagers. Unfortunately, the Qing dynasty collapsed. The fires of war mercilessly swept through its home, until one day, a wealthy young woman moved into the neighborhood. It then took advantage of the night to go to her for help. Although her family thought the whole thing was absurd, the young woman insisted on rebuilding the serpent god's temple. In the days that followed, the war intensified, but the young woman always managed to escape death and survive. As various folk tales spread, the serpent god temple became increasingly popular. But suddenly one day, a group of workers demolished the temple, and gouged out the eyes of the serpent god statue. Strange things began to happen. First, a large number of animal carcasses appeared nearby, and each one had its eyes gouged out. The most disturbing rumor was about the girl who went jogging at night. Something strange happened to her as she passed the snake god temple. A heavy fog rolled in, obscuring the familiar path. Rustling sounds gradually emerged from the woods beside her. Unable to contain her curiosity, she parted the roadside grass and peered inside. She saw a group of people in green robes kneeling before the snake god statue. Near the statue were two elderly men, holding trays, placing eyes into the statue. No matter how he tried, the eyes would just slip down. The woman was engrossed in watching, when suddenly a voice rang out beside her. Enough. We've tried so many times, and nothing works. Bring her here and try. The men in green surged forward. He grabbed the girl by the neck and attacked her face. By the time she was found, her body was stiff, but her head was still stuck in the snake goddess temple. The old man finished his story, and pulled a string of amulets from his pocket. It's been quite eerie around here lately. 30 yuan for a safety amulet isn't too expensive, is it? Zhang Shepong knew much more about the snake goddess than the old man. Even though it was useless, he still paid for it. Because tomorrow is the day of double Yin. The snake goddess will come to take his innate vertical pupils, and the sliver of his mother's soul is also in the snake goddess's possession. The feud between them will be settled tomorrow. But with just him and Li Changsheng, two small nobodies, they're no match for the snake goddess. I can only summon it after combining the two books. Only the gate of exorcism summoned this way offers any hope. To open the gate of suppression, I need to find a millstone as a suppressing object. But I discovered all the millstones in the city have been collected, and made into an art exhibition. This old man is reliable. He heard I was looking for a millstone. Immediately, I showed him a clear path. There's a millstone in Wadayaku Hutong. It's been sitting there for 100 years, and no one's been able to move it. The story goes back to the Daoguang era of the Qing dynasty. Old man Yang made his living by collecting wood ear mushrooms in the mountains. One day, he saw a hunter riding a brown deer. The man was carrying a green snake in his left hand, and a weasel in his right. Old Yang saw tears in the weasel's eyes, as if it was overwhelmed with grief. He couldn't bear to watch, and offered his bag of wood ear mushrooms in exchange for the two young lives. The hunter chuckled and lifted the two captured creatures. Since it seems one of them isn't meant to die today, you can choose one. Your bag of mushrooms can only buy one life. Old Yang chose the weasel. Seeing this, the hunter took the green snake and left. After the hunter had gone far away, Old Yang released the weasel. The creature was quite intelligent. It first bowed deeply before turning and running into the forest. That night, the old man had a dream. In the dream, someone called Mr. Huang came to thank him. He fought the green snake during the day, and was captured by a hunter after they both were badly injured. While he was grieving for his newborn child, he was rescued by old man Yang who happened to be passing by. He came here this time to repay his kindness. He is willing to protect the Yang family for the rest of his life, and ensure their future prosperity. Sure enough, a Mr. Huang arrived soon after. The Yang family's life was getting better every day, until one day, Mr. Huang asked old man Yang what his family still lacked. This was the last thing he needed to do to complete his good deeds. Old man Yang thought for a moment and said his family still lacked a millstone. Mr. Huang said carrying a millstone wasn't difficult, but he warned, remember not to say anything discouraging. The next day, Mr. Huang got up early, and carried the millstone to the Yang family's house. But just as he was about to reach home, a green snake materialized on the millstone. Old man Yang shouted, "Snake! Mr. Huang! Snake!" Hearing this, Mr. Huang deflated like a punctured balloon. He collapsed to the ground. He looked at old man Yang speechlessly. I told you repeatedly not to say discouraging things. Doesn't the word snake have the same meaning as loss/break? Mr. Huang turned and left dejectedly. Our fate has ended. Let's end it here. Anything more would be impolite. Protective deities like Mr. Huang are rare. After he left, the Yang family began to decline, and no one could move the millstone again. People all said it was Mr. Huang's 100 years of Taoist cultivation that were imbued into the millstone. That's why no one could move it. Zhang Shutong didn't care whether he could move it or not. The older the millstone ward, the better. Not to mention this stone mill has 100 years of spiritual energy, because it doesn't need to be taken away. It only needs to wait here for the snake goddess to arrive. Then, urgent messages will be sent to Li Changsheng to gather here. The young man tried meditation for the first time and nearly exhausted himself to death. Those fish spirit sisters were the first to be pulled into his sea of consciousness. Looking at the beautiful birds and flowers in front of him, he realized that, compared to cultivation, he probably preferred something else. Before he could get a closer look, A loud noise from outside interrupted his meditation. He was in a car on his way to meet Zhang Shadong, but the driver had clearly hit something. Just as he was about to open the car door to investigate, a pig wobbled its head into view. He saw a knife sticking out of its neck, blood spurting from the wound. It charged onto the bus and started rampaging. It knocked over many passengers. A few young men tried to subdue it together, but the crazed pig was very strong. They couldn't hold it down. Li Changsheng suggested they cover the pig's eyes with a cloth. Sure enough, the pig immediately calmed down. It was then escorted off the bus. Legend has it that before a domestic pig is slaughtered, it holds a final breath of resentment. If it manages to escape at this moment, fueled by this resentment, it will run without stopping, until everything goes black and it finally realizes it's truly dead. That's why it calmed down after being blindfolded. This pig was originally from a nearby village, meant to be a sacrificial offering tomorrow. Unexpectedly, it escaped and collided with the passenger bus Li Changsheng was on. The village chief was very enthusiastic. He was willing to clean the dirt off the bus for the driver, but he could tell that the bus probably wouldn't be able to depart tonight. Li Changsheng also noticed something was off. The pig was holding a red cloth with the character, happiness, in its mouth. This kind of fabric was only found on the bride's wedding attire locally. The pig might be warning everyone. The village chief then recalled that tomorrow was Chongyang, Double Ninth Festival. The two things are harmless on their own, but together, they signify something bad will happen, because local custom dictates that within 3 years of marriage, a bride cannot return to her family home on the Double Ninth Festival. Newlyweds together can balance their yin and yang energies, but on the Double Ninth Festival, yang energy is at its peak. If a woman leaves her husband's home, it will cause a yin-yang imbalance, bringing misfortune upon both families. And women are considered yin. Leaving home alone around the Double Ninth Festival makes them vulnerable to plague demons. Li Changsheng had heard his grandfather talk about these customs, so he took out the night owl's eye to find the root cause. He finally fixed his gaze on a female passenger inside the car. Looking through the artifact, he saw the woman enveloped in a black aura. She's clearly been possessed by a plague ghost. Li Changsheng told the village chief that the woman was carrying a heavy baleful aura. If she were to take the bus to Fengtian City, not only would her own and her husband's families suffer, but many innocent people in Fengtian would likely be affected as well. The village chief comforted him, telling him not to worry, since heaven had sent the pig as a warning. Their village wouldn't stand idly by. After all, Wang Wei didn't write that poem himself. It records, from afar, I know my brothers are climbing a high place. Everywhere they wear cornel sprigs, but one is missing. Cornel sprigs are the most effective thing against plague demons. Unfortunately, in recent years, due to the widespread use of pesticides, the wind carries them and harms the cornel plants. The villagers have searched for a long time but haven't found a single sprig. Fortunately, someone remembered the village drunkard who often brews Zhuyin wine. They could ask him for some. Finally, after the village chief's patient persuasion, they traded a case of Mao Tai for the bottle of Zhuyin wine. By the time they had everything prepared, it was already dark. They took the Zhuyin wine and went to look for the bus. Although many black toads blocked their way, they were all repelled by the group using the Zhuyin wine. The biggest problem is the passengers on the bus. They've been taken over by the plague demons.